Joe, no Joe, yeah. It's Joe, no Joe. Let's go. Joe, no Joe, chicken Joe, no Joe. Joe, no Joe, nigga Joe, no Joe. Joe, no Joe, yeah. It's Joe, no Joe. Let's go. Joe, no Joe, chicken Joe, no Joe. Joe, no Joe, nigga Joe, no Joe.
It's Joe, new Joe, new Joe. Oh, you know what it is. Keep on loving me. You know what it is. Choke no joke. You already know. Truth be told, all day, every day, even on the holiday, even on your anniversary, even on your birthday. We are here. You already know. Sorry for the delay. You know, got a special guest tonight. And when I got special guests like this, I already know there's certain people that's watching, you know. And the reason that these certain people are watching is they here to, no matter what we say, try to debunk any and everything that we say because we are hot on a tail. Uh they little pink curly tail, that is. We are high on a tail when it comes to lies, fabrication, inconsistencies in their stories. And for years, decades, oh, it almost feel like a century, that so many people have been involved in trying to seek justice for the late great Tupac Shakur. One of them being a guy by the name of Michael Carlin. Like, and many of y'all know his voice, because he dropped videos. He don't do too much online talking, but he'll narrate plenty of videos that are informative in regards to the Tupac case and the Biggie case as well. So Michael Carlin, who is my guest tonight, has been on my show once before, right? Um, some of y'all may know of Chaos Merchant. Some of y'all may know he had did some stuff with RJ Bond in the past. Some of y'all may know that this is Russell Poole's good friend. And when it comes to this Tupac thing, he is one of the people that are boots on the ground, very informative, um, has his own theory on what happened with this case. Um, he agreed with some people he don't. Some findings are his of his own. Some he picked up, I'm sure, along the way with other people researching and pulling different things and evidence and things like that. So now with the trial, we probably about 32, 31 days close to that. I'll just say 30 days out before this thing really gets to start getting where we've been waiting forever. Cause I mean, I'm still feel like it's not gonna happen, but I do believe that it is gonna happen. I don't think there's gonna be any more delays. But I'm sure Michael Carlin is excited as I am for this trial, as the Shakur family is, as the fans are. And we're gonna talk about it. I want to know how he feels. at this point. Uh, with all the information that came out, with all the information he doesn't know about, because there's discoveries that's going to come out that he don't know about, that I don't know about, that you don't know about, that the defense don't know about until it comes out, and then we should see what happens when all this extra new evidence, is it going to tip the scale? Is it going to be really bad for Porky? You know what I'm saying? Or is it going to be really bad for Keefy D with all this information? But we'll see. But right now, without no further ado, I'm going to send out this last notification, and I'm going to bring on the man of the hour. I don't know. He may be that man of 2 hours or 3 hours. I don't know how long this is going to go for, but this is going to be a good one. So I would like to welcome my guy, second time on the platform. You know what I'm saying? That makes him a veteran now, a choke no joke veteran. My man Michael Carlin is in the building. Mike, what's going on, Michael?
Good evening. It's
How
good to
you
be
doing?
here. I'm good.
We know that voice. We know that voice. How you been, man?
I've been good and watching, with great interest, listening to kind of what's happening, hearing people in Compton talk about the Keefe D stuff. I'm knocking on doors in the Southside Crip area, hearing about Keefe D. He's called a shot caller, right? He's not a shot caller. He was a drug dealer.
Right.
And it's
Well,
really interesting. Yeah.
well, your good friend Reginald Wright Sr. also said he wasn't a shot caller, and we know he's the head of the gang task force in Compton. So if
Yeah.
anybody would know if he was a shot caller, it would be Reginald Wright Sr.
Well, you can see that I've read the book, and you know, it's got an index in it. There's no hood book that has an index in it unless they're going to use it like a deposition and get it entered into a court, and that's why they put an index in this book. So
Right.
you've never seen a hood book with an index, have you?
No.
I mean, it just doesn't happen. So they knew what they were going to do with this.
Right.
There are
Well,
no shocks, no surprises.
yeah. Which color? And I'm sure you read more of that book than Keefe D did.
Keefe D doesn't even know what's in his own book. I mean, it's so funny because when he was asked about it, he's like, I don't know. I don't know what's, but no,
Where
it's
you
in
get
your
that
book.
from?
Yeah, exactly. It's in your book. But I was down in Compton, I don't know, probably a year ago, knocking on doors, talking about Bobby Finch. And, I saw a friend of mine down there and I said, hey, man, I was referencing the book. He's talking about cases of Cristal and cases of Dom Perignon. And I mean, it just sounds outlandish to a guy like me because I know what that stuff costs. I mean, what are you talking about? $280 a bottle today for Dom Perignon? I mean,
Well,
it's like,
back then in the '90s, because I know Cristal, because we used to buy it. It was like $109 or
yeah,
$119 a bottle,
yeah,
and a
back
case of
then.
it is only 1,000. 1,500 tops.
So you're talking about, him talking about we had literally tens of cases of this and it was flowing. And I said, come on, this is bullshit. And he said, no. He said, man, KVD was rolling like that.
Yeah,
He
I
had
believe that.
cars, he had champagne, he had women, he was a big time drug dealer and he was moving huge weight of cocaine. I mean, he was probably one of the biggest. He was up there with probably Freeway Ricky Ross, probably up there with Michael Harris, probably up there with, a number of these, Waterhead Bo. I mean, some of these big drug dealers, he was up there with them and he was rolling big time. and he would get arrested and nothing would happen to him.
Yeah, like those what was it, 60 keys? Or how many keys he lost?
Yeah, that was
That,
going to Arkansas. And wait a minute, who was waiting for the keys in Arkansas? Corey Taylor was in Arkansas at the time that bust happened, and it was heading to Arkansas. Now, you can't make this stuff up. And then they find kilos of cocaine in Corey Taylor's personal locker at the Compton PD,
yeah, what he
corruption
had like
report.
two kilos in his
2 kilos in his personal locker, and they, I don't know what those are. I've never seen those before. And they have to cut the lock off, and he storms out and he gets fired over that.
Yeah, what's so interesting? I was looking at that 95 or 100-page report, right? And going through that Compton what is it, corruption report?
Yep, 95
I
page Compton corruption report.
Right. Yeah, going through that, right? And I'm sitting here reading this thing, right? And at some point I'm like, how is all this cocaine and guns and drugs going missing in the precinct and y'all all cops?
Yeah.
I hold on. You tell me y'all all are police and there's a police house and someone is stealing inside the precinct and y'all all cops? What kind of precinct is this? Now I understand why it don't exist no more.
Exactly. And that's why we see, the predicate for all this stuff is really the Tim Brennan affidavit. So you have the corrupt cops that are controlling the narrative. And you see some of those corrupt cops on the MGM surveillance. And I've talked to witnesses who saw them at the MGM in previous fights, and they were working off-duty security. I talked to an old Salty Dog security guy, and he said, we always hire gang cops when we're doing events that are going to attract the Crips and the Bloods because we need them to be there to sort out what's what if something goes down. So this was standard practice at the MGM. They hired them. And wait a minute, who are the gang cops? Wait a minute. So the Compton PD, the LAPD, including probably Greg Kading, he was a gang cop at the time. And so it makes sense that they're all there. And they're the ones that have controlled this narrative. And if you walk it forward, we're dealing with nothing but what they had said in the Tim Brennan affidavit. And,
right.
The easiest thing to attack is Orlando Anderson was in the car. And once you take Orlando Anderson out of the car, this case crumbles. And
Yeah,
it's
that's why
easy.
everybody starts talking about, oh, it was Dre, because they said it was a big meteor. With all these, you telling me for the last 25 years, y'all was saying Orlando. Suge Knight says Orlando wasn't the shooter. Now it was the big meteor, it was Dre. But Keefe D said Dre was scared to shoot. So when do y'all want to believe Keefe D? When it benefits your story? If Keefe D said he was scared to shoot and Orlando took the gun from him and he shot, why? Like, where did Andre or DeAndre Smith become the shooter? Only soon as when Suge says Orlando wasn't the shooter.
Yeah.
They switched the story.
That's it. And we were actually in contact with Russell Poole, and I were in contact at the time of Russell's death with Suge Knight through his lawyers. And we were confirming these things, and we took that to the sheriffs. Now, I was disinvited from the meeting, and I think we can talk specifically about why was Russell Poole murdered at the sheriff's office. I can give you 8 billion reasons. $1 billion for Tupac, $1 billion for Biggie, that's 2 billion plus triple damages. That's $8 billion the city would have to pay out if they were found liable for those murders. And we had determined that the conspiracy began in Balboa Park with Reggie and David Kenner And we didn't make that up. That was told to us through Chris Blatchford in a confession letter. And so, if it was determined that the conspiracy began in Los Angeles and Rafael Perez was at the crime scene in the Biggie, kicking the shell casings, fucking up the crime scene, then guess what? They're liable for the murder. And if it was determined that there were LAPD cops on duty in Las Vegas at the time of Tupac's murder, which we know from the FBI files that that's true, we see cops on the MGM surveillance tape. We see Orlando standing there as a patsy, already determined what was going to happen. Then LA does not want this to see the light of day. And so Russell Poole, who was never going to be silent, is going to the sheriffs, and they have to silence him. And that's why Russell Poole's not with us.
I believe that to be true because we're dealing with some ruthless people. And two things. One, what I come to find out through research by listening to the Compton cops, I can't think of their names right now, but they refer to Reggie Wright Jr. allegedly as Junie, right?
Yep.
I come to find out listening to them that the reason that Reggie Wright Jr. allegedly went on disability is because he was about to get fired that day. And one of them Compton cops told him that they was gonna fire him, and the only way that he could save himself if it was by through injury. And allegedly, Reggie fell down and hurted himself to so he wouldn't get fired and get disability. And from that day forth, he's been getting disability from the Compton PD ever since. And if you follow his career, you see that the same thing that he did for the Compton PD, he did for Death Row Records. He was on his feet. He was walking around. He was traveling with Suge. He was doing security. He may not have been patrolling the neighborhood and stuff, but he was still mobile for a person that sits there and gets disability and brags about it to this day. I was mind blown to find out that allegedly he fell and hurt himself because he was going to get fired that day.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And Kevin Hackey talked about that too, how that was all contrived. And they backdated an injury from an accident that happened in the car and then this other thing. And, you know, Kevin Hackey talked about how that was a scam back in 98 when he interviewed with Russell Poole and Fred Miller. So this isn't anything new, and we're not the ones alleging it. That was alleged back in 98 by Kevin Hackey.
Right. Well, for me, I would believe that it's true coming from these guys. And this cop, I don't think he had any reason to lie or to make up some story because clearly Reggie Wright Jr. has not been hurt to the capacity of he wasn't able to perform his security officer duties at Death Row Records.
Well,
and
now,
still get a pension today, even after a federal conviction of selling drugs and money laundering. He still gets this pension that he brags about that he wasn't even really heard about, allegedly.
And Senior gets his pension, and he was convicted of money laundering. They were both indicted for money laundering and drug trafficking, but Senior was not convicted. He didn't take a plea deal for drug trafficking. He just took a plea deal for money laundering. And so,
Right.
you know, they're both convicted felons.
Yeah.
And so it's not conjecture that the Compton PD were corrupt. They were known as drug dealers back then. And back to Hackey, 1998. And Fred Miller, who was the head of detectives at the time for LAPD, said Reggie is known to control the drug trafficking in Compton. And then we see in the PAO book that it's Keefe D and Reggie. And so those guys obviously had a relationship. And then Reggie's...
And this is way before Tupac.
Yeah, this is way before Tupac. And then there's Reggie's wife was Tupac's girlfriend. I mean, not Tupac's girlfriend. Reggie's wife was Keefe D's girlfriend.
Well, Suge dated her too.
Oh yeah, but I mean, that was common back then. I mean, there were, a number of people that were, just scandalous. And, there was all kinds of craziness that was going on. And Suge was out there, and Sharitha was out there. And, they were all having a good time. It was part of the party. And
Right.
all kinds of craziness going on.
So going back to rest in peace, Russell Poole. At the time that Russell passed away, when he went to the sheriffs, what was his findings? What was he going to tell them at that point?
Well, that's all in Chaos Merchants. And if you read the first 13 pages of Chaos Merchants, that's what he took with him to the sheriffs. Because really, what happened was we were meeting with Dave Demersion at the DA's office. Dave was going to retire. He wasn't feeling the case. We gave him Tupac 187, and it was just too much information for him to digest. And he said, "Hey, I'm not really feeling this case." So we boiled it down to Tupac murder facts. There's 45 Tupac murder facts, and we made it simple to understand. And when we gave him those first 13 pages, he said, "Yeah, I actually understand this case and I feel it now, and I want to pursue it." He said, "But I need an investigator inside of either LAPD or the sheriffs that can help me make this case happen." And so I knew Jimmy McDonnell, and I had worked on his campaign, helped him get elected as sheriff. So Russell and I were exchanging texts with Jimmy McDonnell. And then one day he stopped communicating with us. He just broke off all communications. He was now the sheriff and broke off all communications. So I went to an alumni event at Leadership LA because I was an alumni and he was the keynote speaker. And so I walked in and I cornered him, and he did not like being cornered. And then he thought about it, and there were a bunch of people around. He didn't want to have a big, brouhaha in front of a bunch of people. And he goes, "Hey, man, why don't you reach out to me and we'll set up a meeting. I'll get you your investigator." And so then I called Jimmy McDonnell through a guy named Kerry Carter, and I arranged a meeting. And it was 3 weeks before the meeting was going to happen. And Katie and Reggie both knew that the meeting was going to happen in 3 weeks. They had foreknowledge because they got phone calls. This was all ahead of time. We didn't find out about that
Wait.
until,
How Caden was already involved already?
yeah, Katie found out about it right away. They called him right away. And we
Wait,
didn't find
so
out about it till after Russell died. Then Katie came out gloating about it. "Well,
so
I've
when
known
wait,
about
let
it
me
for
ask you a
three
question real
weeks."
quick.
Yeah.
So when Russell Poole died, the Wrap It Up task force was already formed.
No, that was over. I mean, it was
So how was Caden involved already?
they called him. The sheriffs called him. The sheriffs called Reggie, and they started to mobilize to try and derail us. And that was all going for 3 weeks before. And Katie and Reggie both said, "Hey, we found out about it 3 weeks ago. We've known for 3 weeks." And they knew what we were going to talk about. And then it was about, I don't know, I want to say 3 or 4 days, we found out that it was an off duty sheriff to let the shooters into the club at the One Oak. And that same off duty sheriff, or Sheriff Boyd, drove the shooters to the airport the next day.
That's when Suge got shot, right?
Yeah, that's when Suge got shot. He was shot 7 times. And
Right.
what did the shooter yell? "You killed Tupac." I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The shooter was trying to pin the murder of Tupac on Suge, and he was going to shoot him, kill him, and then leave. And so this was
I
all a
believe
setup.
that guy told this the story. His name is Ali.
Yeah,
Ali from the Zopound. He
yeah.
spoke out about shooting Suge, and I allegedly had some connection to do with Jimmy Henchman, sending Suge a message.
Okay. I mean, but they yelled to who "You killed Tupac." Everybody heard it. There
Right.
was a woman that was shot then too, and I reached out to a lot of these folks, and nobody really wanted to talk about it. They were terrified of this whole thing. But
Right.
anyway, so Kading and Reggie found out about the meeting 3 weeks before it happened. And then a few days before this, we find out about the off-duty sheriff. And I talked to Russell about it. I said, "Hey, man, are you sure you want to go through with this?" And he said, "Yeah." And then the investigator called, and I'm trying to remember his name. I think it was Rod Cush or something. And he said, "Hey, what are you going to talk about?" And he told him about the off-duty sheriff. And he said, "How did you find out about that?" Not, "It's not true. How did you find out about that?" And Russell said, "Oh, so it's true." And he said, "This is a cop thing now. Don't bring Carlin to the meeting." And so I was disinvited from the meeting. And Russell, come alone. What does that sound like?
Right.
That's
So
a setup.
when Russell goes to them, who is he implicating as a suspect?
Well, it's the gang people, it's the Patton brothers, Little Half Dead, and it's also all the corrupt cops: Rafael Perez, David Mack, Kevin Gaines, Sammy Martin, Nino Durden, Reggie Wright Sr., Reggie Wright Jr., and some of the other Compton cops. They were all, it was an operation, or what I like to call a copperation.
And that would be in regards to both Biggie and Tupac, or just
Yeah,
Biggie? Oh,
both of
okay.
them. And that's why, if the city of LA is found to be liable, it's an $8 billion problem for them. And
Right.
I reached out to Mike Fuhrer, and I reached out to Ron Galperin, because, I worked on all their campaigns. And I said, "Hey, you guys got a problem with this."
The thing that I'm trying to figure out is how did Greg Caden get involved? So I know that he was put on the Wrap It Up Task Force with Tim Brennan, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
He was.
how was he a part of the story before that?
Well, I think these guys are all friends and they've known each other forever. And Greg Kading, when I had my big confrontation with him on that radio show, the murder mystery radio show, I said, "Hey, you're covering for your friends." He said, "Yeah, they are my friends and I am covering for them." And so there was, when you look at like the confession letter, it never saw the light of day because it was derailed by Albanese at LAPD. And, RJ and Russell went to the LAPD meeting, and, Darren Dupree was there, and RJ had not disclosed that to Russell. And Russell was hot about it because he kind of got, egg in his face by saying, "Hey, how does Kading's partner at this meeting? And you didn't tell me about it beforehand." And so, the upshot, and I don't know if RJ just let it, it slipped his mind. He didn't know. I don't know what it was, but I know that Russell was not happy about that. And then, kind of a crazy thing, I used to hang out with Anthony Brooklier, and Anthony Brooklier was a mob attorney. And I used to go Saturdays and listen to music in Century City. A friend of mine would play music, and Brooklier would be there. And then Russell said to me, he said, "Hey, I need an attorney that can sue the city of Los Angeles." And so I said, "Well, I know this guy. His name is Anthony Brooklier." He goes, "I know who that is. Let's get on the phone with him." So we get on a call while we're writing Tupac 187 with Brooklier. And Brooklier had previously represented Suge Knight, and he failed to disclose that. And so when I had the actual manuscript for Tupac 187, I bumped into him on a Saturday, and he goes, "Man, I'll give you $1,000 right now if you'll let me read that manuscript now." And I said, "Hey, man, I ain't going to let you." I said, "Why did you disclose to me that you previously represented Suge Knight? And whose best friend is Anthony Brooklier? David Kenner." I mean, you can't make this shit up.
Right.
And so what ends up happening to Anthony Brooklier is he ends up hanged in his condo. He's dead. I mean,
What?
oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And so, after all this stuff happens, it's like, now Anthony Brooklier is dead too. Then that happened after Russell died.
Right.
So
So
you can't make this shit up.
this is crazy. So let
And
me ask you, all right, the Tupac trial or the Dwayne Davis Keefe D trial is coming up,
yeah,
about 30 days from now. Straight out, do you think he's going to be found guilty or not guilty, and why?
well, I think unfortunately we are in an era in America where it's outcome determinative justice, meaning that they already know what the outcome's going to be before they ever bring the charges. And so this notion of a fair trial is really just that. It's a myth. There is no such thing as a fair trial. However, I will say this, I did watch your interview with the current defense people. And by the way, the previous defense people were absolute trash. I think those were just terrible attorneys. And, what did they have to do? They had to set up Keefe D in the county jail so that, there was a beatdown, a fight, or whatever. And,
Just so
nothing
he couldn't
happens.
get bail.
Yeah,
That was dirty. That was
it
really
was
dirty.
dirty. And why did
Right.
they have to do that? They needed leverage on him
Yeah.
so that, because what happens if he gets out and actually can mount a defense? Well, no, that they didn't want that. So
No.
it's the outcome determinative justice. They already know what's going to happen.
And
But
how does he? How does he? I've been incarcerated before, right? So I can kind of guess, like, he's, from what I'm seeing, he was being transported. Either he was coming back from medical, he was coming back from child, he was coming for, but he was being escorted by a correction officer. The other guy comes and approaches him with the correction officer. How is he convicted of anything? Or if he would have been a punk and ran behind the cop and stood behind the cop like this, would they still have convicted him?
I mean, it's the same thing with Cleabone Sloan, right? Cleabone Sloan is the one that does the first felony, but Suge is the one that gets charged with everything. So
Right.
it's outcome determinative justice. They know the outcome that they want, and they're going to just make it happen, and they don't care what the laws are. And look, I have a friend in Compton. You know who he is. The Constitution applies to everybody in America except this poor guy because he shut down the corrupt Compton PD. And so for a bowl of oatmeal and some golf balls and some, like crazy shit, right?
Yeah, he
Almost
went to
nothing.
jail.
He has to go to prison over that
Right.
shit. And then he gets it overturned on appeal, and double jeopardy doesn't apply to him. So they try him again for the exact same crime. And they tell him, we know you're going to win eventually, but we will have stolen 20 years of your life. And
Yeah.
they did. And they stole 20 years of this man's life with this outcome determinative justice. They already know what the outcome is that they want.
So what's the outcome for Keefe D?
Well, I think they want to just pin it on him, but there is a ray of hope, and the ray of hope is his attorney today, I think, is actually really trying to mount a defense.
Yeah.
And
I
he,
his attorney, his defense is definitely working for a win and not doing this, I believe, just for the sake of doing it. I think they doing this in to be victorious, and they building a team that people probably are going to be shocked about once uh, they see who they walk in the courtroom with.
well, I hope so. But I,
Yeah,
but I
we
and
have that conversation off the record.
Yeah. Well, it's a ray of hope. And I think Keefedy has the best attorneys he's ever had. I used to really like mock his previous attorneys because they were just terrible. I mean,
Right.
nothing they were doing was helping, and they were just trying to sell him down the river. And unfortunately, I've seen this in Los Angeles, where everybody that's in the judicial system in Los Angeles went to USC, and There's a revolving door between the DA's office and the public defenders. And then once you've been in the DA's office and public defenders, then you can become a judge. And it's all a club, and they all know each other. And, it doesn't have to be a bribe. It could just be you realize you don't play with us. Your career isn't going to advance. They don't have to get any further than that. And if they have to, then they can finally have the row 75, plot 67 conversation and just say, hey, do you really want to be in this graveyard, or do you want to play ball with us? And, that's the way it works. And, we used to have organized crime over here, and we used to have government over here. Well, now organized crime and government are together.
Hand in hand.
Hand in hand. And so now it's NGOs and it's taxpayers' money that's floating out, and it's just in plain sight. And we're going to use that money, and we're going to fund campaigns, and we're going to count votes until, we didn't get the outcome we wanted. We're going to keep counting votes for another 30 days. And all of a sudden, oh, look, we found this whole stack of mail-in ballots, and this is this is what we want now. And so, it's organized crime, and it's inside of government. And when you look at how this occurred, you can go right back to Police Chief Bernard Parks, his handpicked people, Rafael Perez, David Mack, Kevin Gaines, Nino Durden, Sammy Martin. I mean, it's a big list, but it's the same stuff that's been going on ever since, because there's too much money involved.
Now, let me ask you. I believe that Reggie Wright Jr. had his hand in this Tupac situation, right?
Of
That's
course.
just my belief, right?
Yeah.
Keefe D has stated that Reggie Wright Jr. was involved allegedly on several occasions. What is it going to take in this case for the public to see that Keefe was a patsy, and the people around him, allegedly, those in death row, some of them may have been involved in Tupac's murder?
Well, we can go right back to the only living eyewitness, and that's Suge Knight. And what does Suge Knight say about this? Suge Knight said it's those dirty cops and some gang members. Well, that's what the confession letter says.
Mhm.
And so, it lines up exactly. And we sent the confession letter to Suge through his attorney, Tom Mesereau, went into Suge Knight's cell, read him the confession letter, and said, hey, how did these guys find out all this stuff? It's true. And Tom Mesereau reached out to us and said, hey, it's true. And, I had lunch with Tom Mesereau after. And, Tom's a friend of mine in Century City, too. I mean, he's somebody that I put in my newspaper and I've known. And, he told me, he said, man, I really feel badly about your friend Russell. And then Tom proceeded to tell me a story about Omar. And he said, Omar, I feel so badly for him, because he knew I knew Omar too. And he said, I feel so badly for him because the feds, he said he had to watch, in the Pat Moore case, he had to watch hundreds and hundreds of hours of FBI surveillance footage. And they would bring Omar into the surveillance room. It's all on videotape, perfect audio, and they're pushing suitcases full of cash over to Omar. And Omar's pushing him back, saying, hey, I don't want your money. I want you to build a school for me. I want you to build a church, build a park, help me fund this, help me fund a rec center, help me do something for the youth. And the feds are saying, but he's black. Why isn't he taking the money? And Tom Mesereau said, I was so offended by listening to these feds talk about this stuff. He said, it really was offensive to me. And he said, Omar got a raw deal. And then Omar has his second trial, and Tom comes down to provide a character witness for Omar, and he's only allowed to say 2 words. I mean, isn't that crazy? The judge says, I'm only going to allow you to say 2 words in support of Omar. And he
Right.
says, undeniably honest. And that was it. That's all he could say because the judge had stopped him from actually getting a fair trial.
All right. So going back to Suge, right?
Yeah,
Do you see Suge testifying in this trial?
I don't think so. I don't think Suge would testify. But you know what? Suge said enough things publicly. I mean, you know, he talked to me about the murders. He talked to you about the murders. He's talked to Piers Morgan about the murders. I mean, there's plenty of tape on Suge. The only eyewitness and what he stated about it, and he's
And,
always said
and Orlando was not the shooter.
Orlando. And the minute you take Orlando out of that car, this whole bullshit goes away.
Yep.
It goes away. It's over.
Yep.
And that's all you have to do.
And let's not forget that the driver, according to Yaki Gaddafi, was light skinned, bald head, with a mustache, and with a cap on that looked like a bitch in the face.
Yeah.
Right?
There you go.
So ain't nobody in Reggie's story light skinned at all. None of them.
No.
T Brown, Keefe D, Orlando Anderson, or Big Drake.
Whoa, but wait a minute. The Brennan affidavit says Bobby Finch was in the car.
Right.
And Bobby Finch had an airtight alibi. He was picking his boss up at the airport. I mean, in LA, at LAX.
And then they had the little half dead theory.
Yeah. Well, Little Half Dead was likely the shooter. Wait a minute. Little Half Dead has just changed his name. He's no longer, he's the artist formerly known as Little Half Dead now. But you know, look, we don't know because we weren't there. I wasn't in the car. You weren't in the car. But we're not making this up. We're not the ones that said Little Half Dead was the shooter. That was the Patton brothers who caused a confession letter to be written. And that went into Chris Blatchford's file since 98 and finally came out in 2013. And I had my meeting with Chris Blatchford in 2014.
Right. Well, my thing is, with this trial, it seems as Reggie Wright Jr. is going to be the star witness in this.
Well, if that's the truth, then it's so easy to impeach him because wait a minute, drug trafficking, money laundering, Reggie Wright, who has some kind of a relationship with Keefe D in the drug world, and then his wife somehow had a relationship with Keefe D, and there's some kind of bad blood between them. So all of that testimony can be impeached, and there's many questions that you can ask Reggie Wright that he's going to have trouble answering. Like,
let's hear some of those.
Did you bring a suitcase into the radio shop where Keefe D worked, and then when you and your father left, you didn't have a suitcase because you were under surveillance? There's an LAPD criminal report on Reggie Wright. Well, where's that? Why isn't that entered into evidence? I can't get a copy of it, but I know it exists because it shows up in documents. And it's the criminal history of Reggie Wright Jr. And that's an LAPD document. Well, can that be subpoenaed? I think it can. You could impeach his testimony so many ways. Where were you on the night Biggie? You know, were you handling security for Biggie? Did you know where and when Biggie was going to be there? Did you know?
What was his excuse again when Biggie got killed? He was at some casino.
Oh, you know.
That's what he said. He said he was at some casino.
Haven't you heard like all of the crazy stories that Reggie tells and how the lies constantly morph, but the truth always stays the same?
Yep.
So he's going to have some real problems if they can get him under oath. Can you believe the questions that they'd be able to ask him? And
they're going to get him under. They already got him under oath in the grand jury.
Well, but the grand jury was child's play because you know.
He's going to court. He's testifying. He is
Yeah.
definitely testifying.
Then you know what? We're going to learn a lot because I wonder how many times he's going to invoke his Fifth Amendment rights.
Yeah. It don't matter. He could invoke them on everything. It's just going to make him look even more guilty.
Well,
Every time
yeah,
he uses it.
yeah, he does.
Depending
He
on the
already,
question that I'm sure that Michael's going to be asking him, if he keep invoking the Fifth Amendment, it's only going to make the jury like, okay, let's hurry up, let's wrap this up. That's your guy right there.
yeah, exactly. And all you have to do is take Orlando Anderson out of the car. Now, how else can you take Orlando Anderson out of the car? Well, he
Hospital
was,
records.
yeah, the hospital records.
Yeah,
You can
because he
take it
went
at
to the
the,
emergency,
yeah,
and there's a documentary that I see that I can't remember, and I'm killing myself because I didn't save it, but they have Orlando Anderson's medical records, and it shows the time that got discharged, and there was no way from the time that he got discharged that he could have been in that Cadillac that shot up the BMW.
and he was hanging out at the bar at the MGM, and so those two things. And then the other thing that you could get is you could get his lawsuit with Affini, because he was sued by Affini for wrongful death, and then he countersued for the beatdown, and there was going to be a settlement with Orlando, and he was going to go down that afternoon and collect his check. And the afternoon he was supposed to go down there, he gets murdered at the car wash. And
Yep.
so, I talked to the first responder. I know literally thousands of people in Compton because I've been down there. I worked on Emma Sharif's campaign. I worked on other people that ran for, whatever. And so I literally met thousands and thousands of people down there. One of them was a first responder that was there when the Stone brothers were murdered and when Orlando was murdered. And they have said that everybody was shooting. And a minute after the shots were fired, the first responders heard the shots and rolled, and they were there a minute after. And Reggie Wright Sr. was there, and it looked like he had been there for a long time. Now, Michael Duro, who, by the way, Michael Duro should be out of prison, but he's not because you know what? It's outcome determinative justice. The law changed. He didn't have gunshot residue on his hands. That means he must be released from prison. But guess what? He's not been released. He has a court date coming up. I hope he gets out because he had absolutely nothing to do with the shooting of the Stone brothers. But there were eyewitnesses there at the car wash that said everybody was shooting. It wasn't just the Stone brothers and Orlando that were shooting. And so they ducked, they got down because they didn't want to get hit by stray bullets. But anyway, upshot is the first responders showed up a minute later. Reggie looked like Senior had been there for a while, and Orlando was dead. I mean, he had been shot so full of holes that he was dead, dead, dead. And then, of course, you have Brennan and Ladd say that they got there, and when they got there, Orlando said, "I killed Tupac," and then he died. Well,
Right.
the first responder said, "It's impossible. That didn't happen." And your other guys that you mentioned, the A Compton cop people, they've also said the same thing, that that's a bullshit story. And so you have these corrupt cops. They were found to be corrupt. They were shut down from being corrupt, and they're the ones that controlled the narrative on Tupac. So you got the corrupt cops, the through line for that whole story, and it continues with corrupt cop Kading, who
Mhm.
Toros Ramos ruled to have reckless disregard from the truth. You
Let me
know,
ask you a question.
yeah,
Right? Do you think that Suge had knowledge that the BMW was going to get shot up that night, or that
absolutely not.
something was going to happen to Tupac?
Well, I think they had determined that they wanted leverage over Tupac because there was bad blood happening, and Tupac and Suge were trying to work it out, and supposedly they had worked it out. They were gonna they were going to leave and they were going to form Lucky Seven, which was going to be the seventh record distribution company. And a couple nights before, I forget who it is, but he had a talk with Tupac, and Tupac said, "Yeah, we got all these artists. They're going to come with us." And he goes, "You can't do any shit like that. You know who runs this? Gangsters run this. You're not going to be able to do a seventh record distribution label. You're going to get yourself killed." And that's what happened. And so I believe they were going to do movies together. I believe they were going to do their own record label because Suge knew he was under Jimmy's thumb. He knew he was under.
What about Pac going up to the studio and trying to take the masters?
Oh no, that all happened. 100%. That all
And
happened.
you think Suge is cool with that?
No, I don't think Suge was cool with that. I think there was a haggle that was going on at the time. I think they wanted to have leverage over Tupac, and so they allow the beatdown to happen. And and Suge thinks, okay, well, we got him.
Wait. Do you think that the beatdown was staged?
Oh, 100%. Why wouldn't it be?
Okay.
I mean, honestly, okay. How many gangbangers do you know? 100? Yeah.
Not too many, but from a distance, a few.
Okay. Do you believe that gangbangers would go into the MGM and get into a fight where there's cameras everywhere?
Hell no.
I mean, no gangbanger, and I know a lot of gangbangers.
None of them in Vegas doing that unless it's
unless they know
very necessary.
Unless they know that they've got some kind of immunity. And by the way,
right.
Do you really think that gangbangers from Compton were going to go to Vegas and shoot up in Vegas unless they knew that the cops were going to protect them? That
they were going to be. Until they got back to Compton.
Yeah, they weren't going to go shoot up in Las Vegas. No, that wasn't going to happen. No, unless they knew. But you know what's crazy about this? Okay, Suge and Tupac get pulled over, and a minute later, the BMW shot up. I mean,
that's a marker. That's a marker point.
That's what it is. That's what it is, 100%. And wait a minute, how many film sets you been on? You've been on hundreds of film sets, right? All right, we're going to lock it up. All right, ready to roll and action. That's what they did. And a minute later, they were shot up. And you ever been to Fight Night in Vegas? I have. It's packed. Do you think a Cadillac's just going to roll up along the right of Suge and Tupac unless somehow that is orchestrated?
That's like Kaiser Soze.
That's the way that's the way it happened. That's the way it happened. Okay, lock it up. Okay, we're ready. All right, everybody in place? Yes. And action. That's how this shit happened. And wait a minute, last photo of Tupac ends up being shot by Leonard Jefferson, who becomes a big-time transportation coordinator in the movie business. What? A transportation coordinator who knows how to lock down a movie set.
I mean, and then the other thing too is the whole setup, the whole pull up on the cars at the light on Koval and Flamingo, and K-Dub saying that Kevin Woods got out his car and ran up to the BMW to check on them to see if they was all right. Now you telling me you pull up to a light, right? The microphone here is the light. Shh. Suge and them pull up behind you. Shh. Shots ring out. And you're gonna get out your car, and not only you get out your car on the driver's side, you run all the way around to the passenger side to run up on the side of Pac car. I mean, on the side of the BMW, go, yo, Pac, you all right? Hey, Suge, are you all right?
Well, nobody else saw that, and you had Nate Dogg.
Well, yes, they did.
Well, you had Nate Dogg that was following behind.
No, the guy, remember the guys from the deck at the hotel said they seen the guy go from the BMW on the passenger side and run into the car in front of him and take off.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but
That's there in what's the guy's is it Kenneth Rios?
well,
That,
that ended up in the affidavit of Tim Brennan. But you like the girls when they give their statements, they talk about two shooters, somebody else shot from the roof, and so there's two guns, and then that makes sense with a confession letter because one of the guns jammed and wasn't able to get off a shot. But anyway, upshot is that if you go back to the Brennan affidavit, none of it makes sense. And it does make sense because you had corrupt cops that were trying to steer the narrative. And they
right.
were trying to get Orlando Anderson arrested. Even back then, they were offering him up, in Compton. Hey, arrest Orlando. And Vegas PD had no interest in it. And I was told by Russell that there was video.
Why would they try to arrest Orlando Anderson when allegedly Sergeant Reynolds, Edie Falls, uh, Reggie Sr. met with Keefe D in Orlando and gave them the $60,000?
Yeah. I mean, we can't know why people do the things that they do. That part is going to be a little bit mysterious for us, but we can know this. We can know that they definitely had a motive to try and obscure this because, you know, if you talk to people that were in Compton after the Compton PD took over Death Row Records, they say there was no difference between the Compton PD and Death Row Records once Suge went to prison. They operated as one and the same entity. And that's why they needed to be shut down. And Reggie funded Eric Paradin's campaign. And Eric Paradin is said to have been the one that maybe wrote the confession. I mean, we don't know that, but that's kind of the talk of what's going on in Compton. They talk about that openly in Compton, and
Right. And are you familiar with in '98 when Keefe D was picked up that he stated that Reggie Wright Jr. is the one that orchestrated the hit on Tupac?
no, but it wouldn't shock me. I mean, where is that? Is that in a document?
Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head, but it's around 98, 99. Keefe D meets with, I think, the FBI, and he states that allegedly Reggie Wright Jr. is the one that orchestrated the hit
Well,
on.
I can tell you this: the first person that was offered up in the Biggie hit was Keefe D, and Russell had gone to they flew a helicopter over Keefe D's house because there was an SS Impala in the backyard. It matched the description, okay, and so Russell went and investigated. Cobwebs everywhere, and Keefe D was hiding it from the repo man. So he put the SS Impala in the backyard. Well, there was no way that that was the vehicle that killed Biggie, and so
Didn't Reggie when the Wrap It Up task force started and Greg and Reggie was the first suspect? Didn't the whole thing get to Keefe D by Reggie saying that Southside
no.
killed Biggie
Well,
for
this started
retaliation
no
for
this
killing
this
Tupac?
started this started at the original investigation of Russell Poole into the Biggie Smalls murder, and so uh, Brennan and Ladd go to meet with the investigators, and they're going to share the details that they have, and they're at the investigator's office when their cell phone rings and they say, "Hey, what is that? Oh, you have information about the Biggie Smalls murder? Hold on, I'm going to put you on speaker." And they put it on speaker with the investigator, and it's Keefe D was behind the murder of Biggie. This is early on in '97. the investigation. So the very first person that Compton PD offers up as the suspect in the Biggie Smalls murder is Keefe D.
Yeah,
They were
but the day of the shooting, Orlando I mean Reggie Wright Jr. called his father and told him that it was Orlando Anderson.
yeah.
And Reggie Wright Sr. called Brennan and Ladd and told them to get ready because the war was coming back to Compton.
No, I'm talking about the Biggie Smalls murder. I'm
Oh,
talking
okay,
about
okay.
Keefe D was the first person that was offered up in the Biggie Smalls murder. And that was
Oh,
early 97. Well, I wouldn't say early because Russell took it over. It happened in,
March.
March. And so, Russell gets the case like 3 weeks later. And the same guy who kind of fucked up the investigation on the El Rey Theater, Cooper, is the one that has it for 3 weeks. And so he kind of does, a wrecking ball on the case before it's handed over to Russell. But Russell's pretty smart. He pulled things together. He put out, all kinds of stuff and got a bunch of clues in. He had solved the Ennis Cosby murder. And so he was kind of on a roll and he had some clout in the department. And so the very first person that they offer up is Keefe D. And
Who's offering up Keefe D in the Biggie murder
Reynolds,
first?
not Reynolds, Brennan and Ladd are offering up Keefe D with Reggie
And
Sr.
where are they getting this information from?
From Reggie Sr. They're getting it from Reggie Sr. And
Okay.
it's like they're in meeting with investigators when Reggie Sr. calls and says it's Keefe D and the SS Impala's in his backyard. And so Russell arranges to have LAPD fly over Keefe D's house, and then they arrange to go there and look at the car and with a warrant and the whole thing. And they show up, and this car hasn't moved in months. I mean, these are dumb planners too. They could have at least had Keefe D pull his car out for a car show or something, but
Right.
no, they didn't.
Okay. So that's interesting to know.
And so, wouldn't it make sense? Keefe D finds out he's a suspect because I mean they raided his house. They told him, "Hey, you're a
But we know
suspect."
that he was with Biggie that night. So
Yeah, I mean, of course, but he's not the guy in the bow tie, that is seen. That everybody forgets in the Biggie murder. There are
I believe that was
plenty.
Kevin Gaines.
Well, it was Amir Muhammad, and
Amir Muhammad in the car or Amir Muhammad that walked up on Gene Dale?
walked up on Gene Deal, and then was seen by other people in the car as the shooter, because there were numerous witnesses in the Biggie murder, and everybody forgets that there were eyewitnesses, and Eugene Deal was the one that helped with the sketch, but
Yeah,
there were
but
other.
Eugene Dale did not see the shooter. Eugene
No, no,
Dale
no.
was not
He
in
he
the
saw him
car.
walk up. He saw him walk up, but
Right.
other people, when they saw the image. Okay, and here's kind of a crazy fact too.
Wait, real quick though. But you know the
Yeah.
first composite that was
Yeah.
done that looks like Kevin Gaines was done by Little C's, who was in the car. That
Okay.
that that second composite that looks
That
like
was out of
Amir
New York.
Muhammad, right?
No, the
That one
second.
comes the second one comes from Gene Deal.
It's the other way around actually, because the second composite that was done by the hip hop cop out of New York,
Is that
and
the one that Little C's gave the description of?
you know what? I will look at the details. The woman who did
I'll
the
show you.
original composite, the one that did that looks like with that looks like Amir Muhammad. It looks just like his image on his license.
Yeah, but the one that Little C's composite he did looks exactly like Kevin Gaines.
Oh, that could be. That could be. But hip hop cop. And by the way, wait a minute. Pin it on the dead guy.
Well, look, I'll show you right here. Let me show you.
Yeah. Yeah. The first one was done by, I want to think of her name. It's Drew something. And she was a famous sketch artist that was doing these things. And the hip hop cop was the one that had the second one done out of New York.
Right. And
what?
that's the one that looks like Amir Muhammad.
No, I think it's the other way around.
All right. All right. Well, here goes
Yeah,
the first
let's.
one right here. All right. Let's see. So this is you saying the second one.
What zoom in on the actual the signature. Can you zoom in on the signature?
Let me see. Um,
And by the way, that one says LAPD investigation. The other one was out of New York.
which one is out of New York?
Click on that one, and let's zoom in. Can you zoom in on the signature? Yeah, you've got a really small image there.
Yeah, it's really.
I've got the actual flyer, which I will pull together and send to you. But Kevin Gaines is murdered just a few days after, and so doesn't it make sense to pin it on the dead guy?
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying, but when you look at let me see, because I had a side by side.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah,
see.
I see the side by side. I see it there.
Kevin Gaines.
So there was a dude named Clayton, who was a Nation of Islam dude, who was the one that disposed of the gun, and he met with Amir Muhammad, got the gun, and disposed of the gun, and he confessed to that whole thing. He was a part of, hiding Amir Muhammad because he just went missing for a while, and then the gun. He was the one that disposed of the gun. I think his name was Clayton Hill, if I remember right.
Okay. So this picture here. Let me show you this. This picture here. And
see if you can find a high resolution picture.
All right.
Because you're going to want to look at the signature line, and it's I want to say Drew something, Drew's in, or it was a famous sketch artist at LAPD, and Russell was kind of pissed off that they had created the second one because that was created out of New York, and that wasn't what everybody.
I thought that was when they went to go visit Gene Deal.
No, it was done by the hip hop cop dude. And I mean, the hip hop cop dude was
because Gene Dale's the one that was telling him is the dude with the peanut head.
Yeah. But it wasn't just Eugene Deal, because once the sketch was done, people saw him and were like, yeah, that's the dude. That's the dude that was in the car.
Okay, right. This guy right here, to me, looks like Kevin Gaines.
That looks like Kevin Gaines. I think that looks like Amir Muhammad. And that was the first sketch.
You think this one looked like Amir Muhammad?
Yeah.
I disagree with you. Watch this. Let me show you. Let me show you. Like, damn, I know I got a side by side of these. Hold on.
Yeah. Well, and if you listen.
Now look at this picture, right? Yeah. Now look at this picture. Now look at this picture of Kevin Gaines.
I had somebody send me Kevin Gaines' photo from his
look at this
LAPD graduation. Yeah, I mean,
now you tell me that composite doesn't look closer to this guy than you said Amir Muhammad, right? Now,
well, let's look at Amir Muhammad's license, because that's what they were comparing it to, his
Right.
driver's license
But
at the time.
all right,
And he
look at
has
the
kind of
shape.
a square head, a little
Yeah,
bit
look
of
at
a
the
square.
shape of their heads. Look at that. Look at
Yeah,
this guy, right?
yeah.
Kevin Gaines, right? Let's go. I know I got it side by side.
So if you listen to Kenneth Bogney about this, Amir Muhammad was owed like 700 grand for the hit, and that's why David Mack has to do the bank robbery to pay off Amir Muhammad.
Like, see, that to me looks more like Kevin Gaines. And then when you go to the Biggie killing, the night of, Kevin Gaines and David Mack is standing right out there, and Kevin Gaines got on a button up a shirt all the way buttoned up to the top, and it looked like he just took off the bow tie and forgot to unbutton the top. Because who
Well,
wears their
yeah,
shirt all the way buttoned all the way up to the top with no tie or no bow tie? Nobody does.
all those guys were there for sure. And supposedly, according to Kenneth Bogney, Kevin Gaines was supposed to cut off Puffy, and they were gonna make sure Puffy got killed too. And that's according to Bogney. Now I don't know, that was Rafael Perez bragging about it when he was in jail. So we don't
That,
we don't know whether or not that's true, but doesn't it make sense that, like, whatever? I mean, a week later, Kevin Gaines is murdered by
of
Frank
course, it
Viga.
makes sense.
I mean, and that's an LAPD sanctioned hit, and there were surveillance
See,
at.
that's the other sketch you talking about.
Yeah.
That one is the Amir Muhammad one.
Well,
That
but
one don't
Amir
look like
Amir
Kevin
Muhammad
Gaines.
was never that thick. He was never fat like that. Amir Muhammad was an athlete, and he was thin. He was super thin. He was a runner, and
Right.
those guys are likely behind the murder of Mickey Thompson too. I don't know how much you know about the Mickey Thompson case, but that needed to be two people who were super athletes, because they killed Mickey Thompson and his wife, and then they rode bicycles up this massive hill. There you go. There's Amir Muhammad right there.
Which one?
Scroll
Here,
scroll back up.
right here.
Doesn't that look just like that's Amir Muhammad?
Yeah,
See
right here.
see how thin he is? He's an athlete. I mean, these guys were in tip-top shape.
Yeah. Now, but the difference between him and the Kevin Gaines is the mustache.
Okay, but I mean, all right, I can grow a mustache.
Yeah, but I tell you one thing, Poochie had a whole full beard,
Yeah, I
and
know.
they always known for wearing a full beard. And,
Exactly. Poochie had a beard at the time.
right. So
Yeah.
it wasn't Poochie,
No, it
right?
wasn't Poochie, and that's the
And here
bullshit
go
that.
right here. Here go Kevin Gaines, allegedly, and David Mack, allegedly, standing right in front of the Peterson
Yeah,
Museum the night of. And look at his shirt.
yeah.
And look at his peanut. Look at his peanut head. That
Well,
looks more like the guy in the sketch, the Little C sketch.
and
Now,
you know what? Look, it could be for sure. There's no question about it. The Little C sketch just looks like a thick fat dude to me. I mean, when I say fat, I don't mean, massive, but just a thicker guy. These guys were in tip-top shape. They were athletes. David Mack and Amir Muhammad ran track together in Oregon, and they were, I mean, the fastest men in the world. And David Mack dated Joyner. What was her name?
now look at that picture right there of
Yeah,
allegedly Kevin Gaines and Mack in front of the Peterson at the time of the murder, right?
yeah, yeah.
After right after. Now look at his head and his hairline, right?
Hey, I'm not saying that it's not him, because
Oh,
here
right.
again, we weren't there, but you know what? Either
But he
way,
he
you're
favors him more than the guy
yeah.
with the receding hairline to me.
Well, either way, it's leading back to corrupt cops, because Reggie told everybody where they were going to be, and you know what? That's a Mario Hammonds thing, and I interviewed Mario Hammonds too. Mario Hammonds was another guy, and I like Mario Hammonds. I think he's a stand-up dude. and he talked about talking to because Suge had a visit from Reggie, and Reggie had told him, "Hey, we were the ones that got Biggie, and I arranged it," and so that story gets told, and Reg was the one who knew where everybody was going to be, and he arranged it, and they were all coordinating on cell phones. So Mario Hammonds comes out with that information.
And how could Reggie tell the Caden or the Wrap It Up Task Force at that time that Southside killed Biggie in retaliation for not getting their money for killing Tupac? Who gave Reggie that information? Where did he
Reggie
get
made
that
it.
from?
Yeah, he made it up. I mean, Southside wasn't involved. Drug dealers, not murderers. I mean, Keefe D was a drug dealer. Have you ever known drug dealers to be like, active shooters? No, they have people that do shooting for them. That's what they use the gangs for. You
Okay.
know, when you know when you meet somebody and I've met them, they have that look in their eyes. They're killers, and you can tell when you've met somebody who's a shooter. And you know what? That's just who they are in the gang. They're the shooter, and they're the ones. And Pyru and Crips, they anyway, they have their designees.
So now, real quick, not to cut you off, but
Yeah, yeah.
so once Reggie tells Greg Caden that Southside killed Biggie in retaliation for killing Tupac, and Greg Caden goes on this wild goose chase, he double backs to Reggie and says Southside was there with Biggie. And then Reggie tells him, it gives him Teresa Swan and Poochie, right?
See, you think that Greg Kading did a righteous investigation. I think it was all just
Hell
made up.
no.
I
That's
think
the
it was all
last thing
made
I
up.
think.
I think those guys sat around and they concocted what was going to come next. Don't worry, Reggie. We're going to clear you. We're going to get you out of this because I'm your buddy and I'm your friend. And they're wired in with the police, and it's the thin blue line. And you know what? They're going to get the cop out of it. Even if you were a previous cop, we're going to get you out of it because it's the thin blue line. And it's outcome determinative justice. They're not going to allow anything to happen that they haven't pre-planned. And so they're going to concoct this whole thing. Oh, there was a war in Compton. Well, you know what it was? It was a regular week in Compton. There were 10 shootings. Well, there's 10 shootings in Compton every week.
Right. Now let me ask you this, right? Um, I lost my train of thought because I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh no, it's all good.
but okay, so Reggie, um, damn, I lost my train of thought. With Reggie testifying in this case, right? And being a prosecution witness, do you think that's going to hurt the prosecution or help the prosecution?
It's going to hurt the prosecution as long as the defense asks one question. Reggie, were you ever a suspect in the Tupac murder? Reggie, were you ever a suspect in the Biggie murder? Because you know what? He has to answer truthfully. And now he could lie, but he's probably not going to. Yes, I was a suspect. So wait a minute. You were a suspect in both of these murders, and you're the one that's telling us who did it? Oh no, 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 no. This is really bad. And I think that this is a smart attorney. He's going to put him on the spot and say, "Were you a suspect?" And and I'll tell you, how is Reggie a suspect in the Tupac murder? Well, the confession letter said that we were handed the gun by Mr. Wright Jr. Okay? Chris Blatchford talks about it and says that Reggie and Sharitha were coordinating, this whole thing, right? And Suge Knight says to me, Sharitha and Reggie and Perez was great friends, and all
And they
three of
plotted
them,
together.
and
Yep.
all three of them tried to plot.
Yep. He
And
definitely said that. And
after
this
Russell,
is why Suge needs to be on the stand.
well, I
And
hope
I
he,
know
I hope he does.
yeah. I mean, even if he does, if I'm the defense I'm calling Suge regardless. I don't
Yeah,
care if he's going to
subpoena
be
him.
cooperate or not.
Yeah,
And I'm going to use every goddamn interview that he did over the last few years. Once I establish that that's him, all those become statements.
yeah,
Now, whether they're hearsay, speculation, or whatever, I don't give a damn. The jury's going to hear his voice say that Reggie got fired by Tupac and fired back.
yeah. Reggie and Kenner were fired by Tupac and they fired back. And wait a minute, there's a time capsule, 1998, the confession letter says that we were given the gun and supposedly there was a cashier's check that was given to them. You know what? That can't be too hard to find. Track down the cashier's check. Call the Patton brothers. Call Little Half Dead. I mean, put them on the witness stand. Make them talk on the witness stand. I would. What was this confession letter? Yeah, Patton brothers, tell us about how did this confession letter happen? I would ask. I mean, you know what? Or subpoena them and do a deposition with them. Do a recorded interview where they're under oath. Do all those things. But
You know what's the most disappointing thing is that Frank and Michael Moore aren't here,
yeah.
and their the com- their statements can't be admissible in court because they're not here.
Well, I'll tell you what there are. There's recordings, and those recordings can be played. Those are time stamped, date stamped. Those recordings of all of Frank Alexander's recorded phone calls, Reggie calling him, telling him to lie on the stand. And I mean, let's go back to the chain
So
story.
is that admissible, even though
Yeah,
Frank is dead?
yeah. Well, I mean, what else do we have? But we
Right.
have recorded phone calls which are not staged. Those were
You
Frank
got the
Alexander.
originals.
Yeah, those
Are
exist.
you going to give them to the defense?
I'll give them to anybody who wants them. I mean, if somebody, I was subpoenaed for those recordings in Suge's case. And so I gave those to Thaddeus Culpepper in Suge's case. So, it's not like those recordings haven't been, bandied about because Suge wanted to listen to him and he did listen to him. And, he started to realize what really happened to him. Now, not that he didn't know, but there were a lot of things that while he's sitting in a cell, he put together. He had a confession letter, he had this, he had that. He started putting two and two together. And,
Yeah,
you
because
know,
for like 2 years, I let him hear all of Reggie's interviews.
yeah.
So it brought him up to speed with who was doing what and this, that, and the third. But you know, he deceived me a little bit, so I stopped talking to him.
Well,
But
you know what? Hey, exact same thing happened to me
right,
because he was trying to cut some kind of a deal with Snoop, you know. So Toy and Suge went to Vegas and they listened to Snoop and I think this is the recording that Suge has,
right,
and they talked specifically about the Tupac murder, and Snoop supposedly apologized and what have you, and then while he was in prison, he was trying to cut some kind of a deal with Snoop, and he called me up and said, "Hey man, could you just back off of Snoop?" And I said, "For what?" "Well, I'm trying to work out some kind of deal with him." All right, look, I don't ever try and stop anybody from getting a check, and so, but at the same time, if you're not going to just be about the truth, then I got to move on.
right. Shout out to
Those-
Tori. I like Tori. She cool.
I like Toy a lot, and I bumped into Toy a few times over the years. And you know what? She's always been super nice. And I really did work with her to try and get Suge an attorney. I tried to get him bail. I
Yeah,
brought somebody to the table who was willing to put up the money, and there were meetings that happened. And I mean, I did everything I could to try and help him get a fair trial, which he
yeah.
did
I mean,
not
I
get.
did what I could to help him in any way I could. And uh, Tori, she was just always super sweet, and
I,
that's his lady. So I'm not gonna continue a relationship with her. If
no,
me
no,
and him
no,
ain't cool, you know what I'm saying?
no.
But
Well,
she's a sweet person though.
I think the world of her because, you know, look, I've seen it a million times. The minute there's a relationship that gets into trouble because somebody's got a legal issue, it's like, how quickly somebody will bail on their man or bail on their woman over a legal issue. And it's like, you know what? She didn't do that. She stood by his side. And I think she's still standing by his side. And you know what? I have huge respect for that. And I met with the bail bondsman. I met with, I mean, we had many, many meetings trying to get Suge a fair trial, and we're unable to do it because of outcome determinative justice. They had decided that the outcome that they wanted, there was an attorney, you can look him up, his name's David Paquin, and David Paquin was going to be Suge's attorney, and that was all agreed to. The family was supportive of it, and we were trying to get him in to see Suge, and he reached out to the sheriffs, and the sheriff said, "Oh no, you can't see your client." "Okay, I can't see my client." "No, you got to get the judge to approve it." "Okay." So he goes to the judge. "Oh, you got to fax over this form." "Okay." He's going to go fax over the form. Well, his number's blocked at the judge's office. He can't fax over the form.
That's crazy.
And then they say, "Okay, you're going to have to get approval from the DA's office." He goes to the DA's office to try and get approval. And guess what? They won't let him see his client. The three of them have finally said, "Hey, you're not going to do it. You're not going to be able to see your client." Now, I was told by somebody at the sheriff's that Suge Knight was handed 2 murders under the table, which is something that they do. The prosecution tells him, "Hey, here's the deal. You don't take this plea deal, we are going to charge you with these 2 other murders. God only knows what they are. And so you're going to take this plea deal and you're not going to accept this outside counsel." And that's what I was told. I was told that that's what prompted him to take his plea deal.
Nah, that from my understanding, which why he took the plea deal is because they handed him a cell phone. Like they smuggled the cell phone in there. He was on the cell phone, but the phone was tapped. So
Yeah, of
he called
course.
his moms, he called his pops, he called his sister, this, that,
Yeah.
and the third. And then what they threatened him with was being that his moms and pops were on the other line of the phone call. He told them to give somebody some money for something. They threatened to arrest his mother, and or cop out. So that's why he copped out, allegedly.
Well, you know what? I tried to tip him off because he was talking to Suge Knight Girl, and that all got out and what have you. And I was trying to tip him off that everybody knew he had a cell phone in there. So I put it out that Suge has a cell phone, and Toy asked me to take down the video, which I did because I wanted him to know that they knew. They knew he had a cell phone in there.
Yeah,
And
it
you
was
know what?
tapped the whole time.
Yeah, of
So
course. Of
they just as
course.
soon as he talked about giving somebody 20,000 for something, then that's when they told him they let him hear it, and that's why he took the plea deal, allegedly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I believe
Well,
that story.
and you know what? That's probably part of it. The 2 murders under the table, that's just leverage. They're known to do it. It's the outcome determinative justice. That's the system we live in.
Yeah, because
They
he had a great chance of beating that case because
Well, that case was shit. That case was
yeah,
shit. And Russell Poole was going there to say, "Jimmy McDonnell, don't make a mistake and take this shit case all the way to trial because we could give you the 2 biggest murders that happened in music history, and we can give you this on a silver platter." And you know what? It led to too many places. Here's something I want to just show you real quick. You've probably seen this, right? It's called Beyond Cloak and Dagger. It's about the formation of the CIA.
mhm.
Okay, who is that written by? That's written by Miles Copeland. Now, who is Miles Copeland? That is the man who created the CIA. And who are his sons? He had 3 sons. Any idea?
Nope.
Stuart Copeland of the police, Miles Copeland Jr. of IRS records, and Ian Copeland of FBI booking. And here's how weird my life is. I had a newspaper in Century City for 20 years, and one of my clients was Ian Copeland. And I had produced a video with Bon Jovi for Fuji Tape years ago, and I was over hanging out with Ian Copeland when Doc McGee showed up. Now, he was the former manager of Bon Jovi, and at the time that I met him, he was under indictment for an entire plane load of marijuana in Panama. You know about this?
Mm.
Okay. Well, anyway, I mean, this is like a crazy story. So I bump into Doc McGee and he goes, "Hey, wait a minute. I remember you. You were that dude with Bon Jovi. You did that commercial with the big vat of ink. We built a pool on the soundstage at Osmond Studios, and I had run Osmond Studios previously, and I produced this commercial, and Bon Jovi showed up and what have you. But anyway, back to this whole thing. Okay, so Doc McGee's under indictment for an entire plane load of marijuana. What happens to Doc McGee? Any idea? Absolutely nothing. He does some PSAs in Russia, of all places. Okay. Does that make any sense to you? And now you've got these three kids who create the music industry, really. I mean, they were guns in the music industry. FBI Booking did all the tour support, and that was my client, Ian. He's now deceased. He died of cancer. But anyway, their father founded the CIA. So this starts to tell you about we had government over here and organized crime over here, and it became one and the same. We have government that is organized crime now, and they're behind all this stuff. You don't want to be a Michael Jackson and try and buy the Beatles catalog. You don't want to be a Suge Knight or a Tupac and try and create Lucky Seven distribution and compete with the people that run that industry. You don't want to be Whitney Houston and have a huge catalog and be worth more dead than you are alive. You don't want to be Prince and try and work outside the system. You just don't want to do it. Music is just one of those things where it's controlled end to end. And Death Row Records was no different. And the $1.5 million that Harry O put up was delivered in a grocery sack. So it was cash. What was that for? That wasn't for the legitimate music industry business. That was for the corrupt cop shit that was going on out the back door. And over the weekend, I was in Wilmington. And in Wilmington, there was a bodyguard there who worked for Death Row. I'm not going to say his name, but I got a chance to talk to him about all that. I said, "Hey, man, you want to do an interview?" "Absolutely not. I don't want to do an interview." And I said, "Hey, so, a few people, somebody that he bodyguard had come out recently and said that Rafael Perez, David Mack, Kevin Gaines, all those guys were, at death row." And so and if you listen to my interview with Kading says, "Nobody worked for death row. There wasn't
He's a
one person."
liar.
Well,
He's
anyway,
a liar.
upshot is that now hundreds of people have talked about it, right? And
You
I
got
said,
Trady from the East Siders that said Rafael Perez and David Mack worked up
yeah,
at Death Row. You got Layla
yeah,
Steinberg. You
yeah,
got Jimmy Iovine. You got
yeah,
Chief Bernard Parks.
yeah,
You got Joe Cool. You got Big C Style.
yeah.
Uh, who else? It's more than enough with it. Suge Knight
You got Omar
himself.
Bradley who played chess
Omar
with,
Bradley.
yeah,
Yeah, like it's clear that these guys worked up in Death Row, and only person that haven't seen them up there is Reggie.
yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, so the upshot is that I said to him, I said, "Hey, man, so, what was going on?" I said, he said, "Those guys were the ones that were running the drug side, the corrupt cops. Doesn't that make sense? You show up with a gun and a badge and you say, 'No, no, no, no. We're on the job, and these drugs, they're what oh, all of a sudden no
That's what Big
investigation."
C Style said. He said,
Yeah,
when the police will show up, our police will run up in front of them and
yeah,
stop them.
yeah. And don't forget, they also listened to the police scanners at every event, everything. They had police scanners listening to everything. So they knew anytime anybody was doing anything, they could track those movements with the police scanners. And that was just part of their standard operating procedure. They knew when the cops were going to roll up on, at the Theater El Rey, because, and they also knew that there were so many off-duty cops. That's when Reggie Sr. called over and said, hey, you know what, could you just like drop this case because it's going to kill too many careers. And as a courtesy, they just dropped the case. So anyway, so you have government working with organized crime. And shout out to Sikorsky, because he actually was able to get David Mack on the record. And
Yeah.
David Mack said, hey, everybody talks about the Rampart scandal, but it wasn't just the Rampart. It was going on all over the place. And so years ago, when I interviewed my Federale guy, okay, and it was border Mexico, and I was like, all right, dude, right here's the border. All the corruption is on your side, and we're on the American side. We don't have corruption here. He laughed. He thought that was the funniest thing I ever said. He said, Mike, who do you think we give the drugs to? We give it to the sheriffs and the police. And I'm not saying that all sheriffs and all police are corrupt, but I am saying that there are elements inside of them that are corrupt. And that's the organized crime that happens inside these police departments.
Yeah.
And that's why you have Seaside, who allows Reggie to come up there and do an interview. I mean, it's laughable. Hey,
Yeah,
let's get the two
that
corrupt
was.
cops.
I think they pulled it down because I went to look it up. It's still on their channel, but Seaside took it down from their channel.
Yeah. Well, crazy, huh?
Yeah. So, well, like I said, man, it's always a pleasure talking to you. We got about 30 days left, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
I
this,
hope the
good.
defense is listening to us, because I think
Oh, of
we've
course
given
they
them
are.
some great ideas about what to do. Because if they are able to get Reggie on the stand, I mean, I think they can just nail him. I think Reggie is now going to be terrified to get on the stand, and he's not going to have a choice because he's going to get subpoenaed.
Right. Well, he's already subpoenaed and he's a prosecution witness, so he's definitely showing up.
Well, he's going to get cross-examined, and they're going to nail him.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. How could you be a witness for when you're a suspect in the case?
That's my next question to you. Do you think by the end of this trial that Keefe D will be either exonerated and Reggie will get indicted, or will they indict Reggie before it's even over and he be a co-conspirator?
Well, I think a lot of things could happen. And, I hope that there's some kind of protection on KVD, because if something happened to him, he slipped on a bar of soap or something, hit his head, then KVD is no longer able to stand trial. And we knew we had the right guy, but he's gone. And I worry about that stuff because, like Whitney Houston, like Russell Poole, like all these people that were worth more dead than they are alive. And you have governments that are cooperating with each other. And let's not forget, the guy who was running the sheriffs is now the governor of Nevada. Kalisis was up for U.S. attorney. I don't know if he got U.S. attorney, but you know what? I mean, he was up for it. So, and then the guy who shows up, and it's the first cop on the scene, runs the Republican Party in Nevada now. These are pretty crazy things.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think Reggie Sr. is going to testify in this case?
I mean, I hope so. I mean, he would be an amazing witness for the prosecution, and then the defense would just come in and cross-examine him, and he would be stuttering all over himself, because
Right.
he would go back to being that dumb guy that was in the Brumfeld film. Yeah, I don't really know anything. And the same guy that was interviewed for the corruption report. Yeah, well, It was those guys. It wasn't me. Even though I was the head of the gangs, I never really made any decisions.
Right. Just like with the them 60 keys missing.
Oh yeah.
Nobody knows nothing when it comes to them. My I feel like if Reggie Sr. don't show up to court, he's guilty himself.
Well,
Because
we know
there's
he's
no reason
guilty.
why a cop like him, who's claimed to be a decorated cop, doesn't show up on the subpoena. That would look
Well,
really
yeah.
bad for him.
And I don't know how much you know about Gary Beverly. You ever heard of Gary Beverly?
No.
Okay, Gary Beverly. They were they were going to vote, and they're going to shut down the corrupt Compton police. It's coming to a vote. It's a week out. Okay. There is a Compton PD's wife who works at the Linwood School District, and there are two people who look identical. And Gary Beverly has just gone to Orlando, and he's come back. And while he was in Orlando, he shaved his head, and he was a ringer for Omar. And Omar says he's going to leave Linwood, and Gary Beverly gets in his Sebring, and he starts driving on the 91 freeway, and he's murdered on the 91 freeway.
Yeah.
Now, Omar's phone rings right after the shooting. He doesn't know what's happened, and it's Reggie Sr. calling him up. Hey, Omar, I just saw you call and check on you. You okay? He goes, yeah, I'm fine. He doesn't even know why he's getting a phone call. Why is Reggie Sr. calling Omar?
See if
Because
he was
they
dead,
thought they
allegedly.
killed Omar. They
Yeah.
thought they killed Omar. And
Yeah.
the vote happens the very next week. Omar is the tie breaking vote, and he is the man who shuts down the corrupt Compton PD. Whenever I talk to Omar, I remind him literally thousands of people are alive because of your decision, because of that vote. And even if you had to face prison and trials and 20 years of your life, literally thousands of people are alive because of you. But I'm just saying that Reggie Sr., Reggie Jr. were knee deep in all this corruption. They were knee deep in it. So I would love to see Reggie Sr. get on the stand. I would love to hear him answer questions about some of this stuff. Now, I'm going to give you a stat on Compton PD because this is like a big thing. The killing was just massive going on in Compton. It was like 100 murders a year. But at the time Compton PD is turned over, there are 275 open murders. Okay?
Damn.
275 murders that were unsolved. And who's the head of homicide? It's Reggie Sr. And then they go to turn over the corrupt Compton PD to the sheriffs, and there's a shredding party at the police, and they turn over 24 murder books. That's it. 251 murder books are purged by the corrupt Compton PD. Why? Well, because the cops were doing the killing. And they knew how to use gangs. They knew who the shooters were. They were controlling the jurisdiction. So bodies were being dumped at the cemetery and whatnot, so that the jurisdiction would trace back to Compton, not LA, not other cities. And so whenever there was a dead body coming in, it'd just get dropped off there, and Reggie would scuttle the case. And
Hey,
so
would you are you familiar with this alleged murder that Reggie Wright Jr. was supposed to be involved in at the cemetery?
you're talking about Bruce Richardson.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was over, and that was who was that pinned on? That was pinned on Suge. They tried to pin it on Suge because Suge had a beat down, and it was like a week before. But who showed up at Bruce Richardson's home? It was cops. And so he would have never opened the door for anybody else. He was a karate kung fu guy. I know people who know him. I'm actually in touch, believe it or not, with his former girlfriend, and she's told me stories about him. And you know what? It's been
So
said.
so the story is he got beat up, or he beat up Suge and ended up dead.
He beat up Suge, and a week later, 10 days later, he ended up dead. Yeah.
And wasn't it something to the story like Reggie Wright Jr.'s service handcuffs were found on him,
Yeah.
allegedly?
Yeah. Well, that was a different guy. That was a different guy who was picked up on Piru and Central. Let me think of his name. He was picked up on Piru and Central and ends up dead. He was picked up by the police, ends up killed and discarded at the cemetery. And so that was another one.
Vince
That was
Buchanan?
Pat Buchanan, not Pat,
Vince?
Vince Buchanan, Vince
Yeah.
Buchanan. And so, wait a minute. Okay, if you get picked up in broad daylight at Piru and Central, do you think anybody's going to see you? Of course they are. They know who picked him up. That is well known in that neighborhood. And yeah, okay, Reggie always talks about, well, I know I got blamed for that. But you know what? I think people in Piru probably saw what happened.
Right.
You know, Piru is where it all started. And so I have become a gang expert. I interviewed
Wait,
30.
real quick before you go into
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So is it Vince Buchanan or the other guy
Both
that
of them. Both of them are blamed for Reggie.
which one of them was videotaped and that's why Buntree got killed?
Oh, that was Vince Buchanan, supposedly.
Okay.
Yeah, that was supposedly Vince Buchanan. But
Yeah.
but you know what? There's no credible evidence that there's videotape. I mean, where is that videotape? So
I'm
supposedly
sure they
some
destroyed
people.
it and Buntree's dead. That's why they killed him.
Well,
Allegedly.
you know what? There's a lot of craziness. If you listen to Cecil was he was in charge of the sheriffs. He was the one that called Reggie Senior and said, "Hey man, you were seen at the crime scene, and you ran off, and anyway." Kevin Hackey talks about, "Hey Reggie, if you want to kill me, you could come at me just one up. You don't have to have me drive for you like you did before." I mean, so this stuff, there's that's why I'm saying when I go through 251 murder books are purged, there's so many of these murders that tend to tie back, including Orlando Anderson's murder. Why was Reggie Sr. on the scene at the time? A minute after they heard the shots, they got there. It looked like he'd been there for a while. It didn't look like he was just getting there. They didn't see him getting out of his car. They saw him way away from his car.
Right. And according to the ambulance people, that Orlando was dead before they even got there.
Yeah, he bled out immediately. He was shot up so bad.
Right.
And Michael
so how
Duro,
do you give this lying ass dying declaration?
It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's the continuation of the narrative that it was that leads it away from LAPD and corrupt Compton PD, because Bernard Parks actually requested that the corrupt Compton PD not be shut down because it was going to interfere with his business arrangements, which, so they were laundering their stuff through Compton.
Right. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that I'm going to ask you about, let's talk about the witness list, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the defense should call Kevin Hackey?
I would.
Even though he's been convicted and things like that?
Well, I think that was all a setup. I mean, they had to dirty him up.
Right.
Because Kevin Hackey was doing what? Well, he was working undercover.
Yeah. What about Trayvon Lane?
I would call everybody. Make him go on the record and make a statement. I would call the Pattons. I would call Little Half Dead. I'd call Snoop. Why not? I think
they definitely gonna call Snoop. Snoop's he's definitely gonna get a subpoena.
You know what, Daz? Daz said, "Hey, we were gonna jump out on him in Vegas," but Snoop said, "Hey, don't fuck this up. Call Daz. What did you mean by that?"
Right.
What did you mean? And you know what? Even if you don't call him at the trial, hey, I'm sure that you could call him in for a recorded statement, subpoena him, make a recorded statement, because you never ask a question at trial you don't know the answer to. But, they got 30 days to find answers. and I would
Right.
call everybody. I'd have one hell of a witness list.
Who's on your witness list? Who would you call?
Danny Patton, Malcolm Patton, Little Half Dead. I would call, all the people that are still alive that were in the car. Why'd you block him in? I would call
That would be
Neckbone.
Kevin Woods,
Yeah,
K Dub,
yeah, K Dub Neckbone.
Trayvon Lane on his left.
Yeah,
Neckbone, yes, definitely.
yeah, all of them.
Who else is left in that
Yeah,
circle? Low from OFTB.
yeah,
Well, he shot through the light, but he was there that night.
yeah.
Um, who else?
And
The,
I would call
the
some of the
girls.
people in the Biggie thing too. I'd call David Mack. I'd call Rafael Perez. I would call
Yeah.
them all. Nino Durden, Sammy Martin. Make them make a
Do you think
statement.
do you think Mack and Perez will answer the subpoena?
Yeah, but they'd have to. I mean, you have to answer a subpoena, or you're going to be in contempt. And you know what? I think they'd show up.
Even in different states?
Well, you know what? They can work through law enforcement wherever they live. They can get them to show up for a recorded interview. 100%.
Right.
Yeah, they can make it happen. And why not? Why not get everybody to make a statement and watch how quickly Keefe gets killed? If you went with my
Don't say
witness list,
that.
well, brother, I mean, it's the reality because we're talking about so much money. I mean, this isn't a few marbles. This is big, big marbles. I mean, $6 billion in punitive damages, $2 billion in life royalties. I mean, that's $8 billion just for the city of LA. What's
I
the
know one
music?
thing for sure. If Trayvon Lane does not show up for this, then I feel it deeply in my gut that allegedly Reggie Wright Jr. and Death Row orchestrated Tupac's murder.
Yeah,
If Trayvon Lane does not show up for this,
yeah,
I 100% in my soul believe that Death Row killed Tupac.
yeah. Well, you know what? Death Row killed Tupac. And how do you know that? You have an eyewitness who said Death Row killed Tupac. Russell really had it right before he passed, but the thing that he couldn't separate before he and I started looking into this together, he couldn't separate Suge Knight from Death Row because he saw them as one and the same. But there was a faction inside of Death Row, and once he realized that there was a coup d'etat that was happening inside Death Row, it all came together. And Death Row was behind the murder of Tupac, and then Death Row was behind the murder of Biggie. And by the way, we can clear Suge Knight completely in both murders. How can we clear Suge Knight completely? Number one, Suge Knight was sitting in the car next to Tupac. Nobody is going to put themselves next to Tupac when a shooter's going to come and kill Tupac. It just wouldn't happen. And there's no way you could get a conviction of Suge on that. And the second thing that you can't get a conviction on Suge with is the Biggie thing. Now, Reggie came and tried to tell Suge about what happened and what have you, and he told Mario Hammonds, yeah, we were behind it because he wanted street cred while he was in Mule Creek. But Suge was at LA County Jail at the time, and I interviewed somebody who was there in jail with him. He was shackled hand and foot the entire time he was at LA County Jail. There is no way that Suge Knight coordinated the hit on Biggie. Now, uh, Russell and I interviewed that inmate together. And so once Russell knew that Suge Knight was not behind either one of these murders, he said the easiest thing that we can do is get him to cooperate in both of these cases, and we're going to get them solved, and we're going to give the LA sheriffs a big win, and we're going to give the LA DA's office a big win because Russell still believed in the judicial system. I no longer believe in it because it's determinative outcome justice system. They already know what the result is that they want.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I personally agree with you on almost all of it. But what I want to see that I'm looking for that's probably gonna be the best thing since sliced bread is Reggie Wright Jr. on that stand because I know all his inconsistencies. I know all his lies. I've
Yeah.
saved all his goddamn inconsistencies and his lies. So I know when he's lying. You know what I'm saying? Just like in like them wanting to use this book as a confession to say that Keefe D has something to do with this murder. There's so many things in this book that is a blatant lie, like Keefe D meeting up with Suge and Tupac on Friday. We know for a fact they didn't drive out there until Saturday.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where Tupac pulled the gun and fired first.
Yeah.
Like, y'all gonna go with this book, y'all gonna lose.
Oh, exactly. But all you got to do is just take Orlando out of the car, and then this book is irrelevant. And wait a minute, what was Keefe D trying to accomplish? Remember when I said, "Hey, yep, Suge wanted to cut a deal with Snoop, so he told me to back off Snoop, and I never stop anybody from getting a check, right? We
Right.
don't want to stop people from getting a check. Well, how much money did he make off this book? How much was he paid to do the confession? How much was he paid to do the book? I mean, if you look at this
And
book,
the
I mean,
interviews.
and the interviews, all that stuff, this is
But you
a,
know what's the craziest part about this whole thing? Reggie Wright Jr. was his publicist.
yeah,
So you telling me you knew from day one in the first hour you called your father and told your father that Orlando Anderson shot Suge and Tupac, right? From the day one, whether you want to lie and say you called your father, his father said Reggie called him within the hour, whether you knew the hour or you want to change your story and say, oh, you knew when Tim Brandon went to Vegas 3 days later or a week later or a month later and went there and identified Orlando in the video. And that's how you knew Orlando. Okay. Well, then you or your father, Edie Falls, Sergeant Reynolds, whoever y'all want to say gave Orlando and Keefe D 60,000 after y'all already knew that he shot Suge and Tupac. After that, you go and years go on, you calling Keefe D on YouTube, telling him, yo, it's Tupac birthday. You still got a relationship with him. You in this goddamn payout book. Not only that, and then come fast forward 25 years later, you his publicist booking him for Vlad, Cam Capone, the Art of Dialogue, and you're making money off of these interviews booking him. What is going on here?
but it's worse than that because he's a suspect in the murder of Tupac. So the suspect is the one that's booking Keefe D and pushing this fairy tale. The suspect is the one, you got to just keep saying it because he's a suspect in both murders.
Yeah,
And
you know what?
he's a
That's
credible.
how we gonna refer to him from this day forward.
Yeah, he's a suspect in the
Yeah.
murders, both
Yes.
murders.
Yes.
The
Yes.
suspect in the murder of Tupac and the murder of Biggie Smalls is going to testify at trial.
Ain't
The
that something?
suspect, yeah, the suspect
That-
is the one that was the publicist for Keefe D. The suspect was the one that was dealing drugs. The suspect was the one that pushed Keefe D as the original lead suspect in the Biggie Smalls murder.
Even
And that
though
was while Russell had the case.
right.
The suspect.
And then the prosecutor has the suspect as their number one witness.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Hey, Reggie, were you a suspect in the Tupac murder ever? He has to tell the truth. Oh, you
Yeah.
weren't. But what's this confession letter that says you are? What's this interview with Suge Knight that says you were? What's this? I mean, it just goes on and on and on. He's a suspect. Were you a suspect in the Biggie Smalls murder? Yeah,
Yep.
there it is.
Oh, this is going to be fun
Yeah,
seeing Reggie on that trial. I
yeah.
mean, on that stand. I wonder if they just going to let him sit in his chair, or they going to give him a boost and put him on the stand.
Whatever they do, man. I think you're going to see him literally shit his pants up there and need to have his diaper changed. I mean, that's coming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I honestly hope that this thing ends. And then not that I want to see another man in jail. It's just that I honestly, in my opinion, feel like Reggie Wright Jr. is guilty and uh has a hand allegedly in Tupac and Biggie's murder. But what I would like to see how this ends is with Reggie getting indicted by either a federal RICO or something.
yeah.
But he should, like, if I see him limp out of the police station and then start walking regular like Kevin Spacey and goddamn Usual Suspect, I'm gonna be pissed off at the end of the movie.
Well, I will say this, and I've said it before, Reggie, because I know you're listening. Reggie, it's time for you to repent of your sins. One day you're going to meet your maker. It's time right now to repent of your sins. And Choke and I will be there. We will shoot the interview. You can repent of all these sins. You can come clean of all this and have a clean conscience going to the grave whenever that happens. We don't wish death upon anybody, but we think it's time for you to confess. Reggie Sr., it's time for you to confess. It's time for you to confess of all the ill stuff that you've done in Compton, the craziness that you were a part of. Come clean, confess, come to Jesus. It's time. Do this before you pass, and we're here to take your confession.
Yes, we are, my son.
Yes, yes.
Yes, but are you excited about this as much as I am?
Well, I'll tell you, there's something kind of interesting that's going on. I don't know if you've been following the Tyler Robinson case, the murder of Charlie Kirk, but there's so many similarities because they have what they call the Fed slop. And Candace Owens has been out there and she's been talking, and I don't agree with Candace on everything, but you know what? She wanted to know what happened to her friend, and you just can't begrudge anybody who wants to find out what happened to her friend. And so she was out there and she was putting it out, and a lot of things came to light. And so now, when you see Tyler Robinson and he's at the Dairy Queen, the video is perfectly clear. But when you go to the UVU videos, now all those have been down resed. And so, it's probably the same in the Tupac murder. When you see
That's what
the
I want to ask you.
MGM,
I don't want to cut you off, but I don't want to
yeah,
feed my
yeah.
thought. Do you think we're gonna see a clear version of the surveillance video?
I hope so, but I don't think so. I know the prosecution doesn't want that because they don't want all those corrupt cops on there. But it's so similar what's going on between these two murders because there is an outcome determinative justice in both of them. They want to scream from the rooftops that Tyler Robinson was the murderer, but they don't have a weapon that ties him to the crime. And by the way, we don't have a weapon that ties Keefe D to the crime. Do we have DNA from Keefe D on a weapon? Do we
We don't
have
even
any
have a
video?
vehicle.
Do we have any videotape of Keefe D in Vegas
We
shooting
may,
Tupac?
we may
Okay. I mean,
not shooting them,
okay.
but there may it may pop up video of Keefe D in this case.
Okay. I mean, that'd be
I
great. But
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything yet that's videotape of Keefe D in Vegas. I haven't
What I
seen,
could tell you this is there's so much discovery that you're gonna see for the first time that uh I'll just say that the discovery that's gonna come out in public during this trial is gonna weigh more on our theories than what the people or the bullshit they've been putting in the public,
Yeah.
when the discovery starts hitting, the stuff that we believe and what we think it, more of it is going to come out. And
Well,
that's when your boy, you're going to see the doodle running down inside his pamper, running right down his leg.
well, I'm going to give you one more theory to kind of run with, or just think about. Tupac was supposed to survive. Doctors came out and said he was going to survive, that his injuries were not life threatening, and he looked like he was on the mend, and they were going to make arrangements for him. And Frank Alexander, who felt guilty about what happened, wasn't going to leave Tupac's side, and gets a frantic phone call. Reggie's blowing up his phone. Reggie's blowing up his phone. Reggie's blowing up his phone. Hey, you got to come over to Suge's right now. And Reggie orchestrates David Kenner, Reggie, and Suge with Buntry and some other people there are sweating Frank at the time Tupac dies. They had to get Frank away from Tupac. Who shows up? Snoop said he was holding on to his last breath. And you know what it's like when you are at a place like that and you don't think, okay, yeah, Tupac's fine, and a big celebrity like Snoop shows up, everybody goes running over to go hang out with Snoop. And I believe Kevin Gaines sneaks in, puts something in his IV, and that's what killed Tupac. Tupac was expected to live. So, did Keefe D kill Tupac? I mean, was he in the hospital? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was the corrupt cops that were involved, and that was an operation to kill Tupac because his heart stopped, and Afeni said, hey, we got to pull the plug. I don't want him to go through this anymore. You ever been in an ICU? You ever been with somebody that's had a heart attack and they're on life support? I have. And I talked to the charge nurse that was in charge at the time, and I was talking to her about it, and she's thinking, does he want to kill somebody? I mean, what's going on? And I told her, no, it's the Tupac case. And, how tough would it be to put something in somebody's? She said, you know how simple it is? It's like simple, because that is a direct line to the heart.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is put a couple of drops of poison in there, and it's over.
Yeah, but I think poison would have shown in it. Well, it wouldn't have shown.
There was no autopsy.
There was no autopsy. You're right.
There was no autopsy.
They cremated him. You're right.
They cremated him within 24 hours. But here's the other thing, too. There was an autopsy. It was rushed, though. And here's the craziness of Las Vegas PD. I don't know if you remember, but there was a dude who came out who had worked for the Vegas PD, and he was talking about how he saw Tupac's body all splayed out and what have you. And I talked to somebody else who was a cop in Vegas, and he told me that the rumor was circulating that the cops were able to go in and violate Tupac's body in the worst way you could possibly imagine. I'll leave it to your own imagination about that. And that because he was known as a cop killer, because he had pointed his gun and fired at 2 off-duty Atlanta cops. I don't know how much you know about what cops think about people who would point a gun at a cop, but they're not friendly after they find out that you are somebody who's pointed a gun or shot a cop. And they will do whatever they can to ensnare you and get you killed. And they will do those kind of things where they violate your body in the most vile, wretched way. And
Right.
so, did that happen? I don't know. It's folklore. But you know what? I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't put it past them at all.
Because not only did Pac shoot 2 off-duty cops, if you listen to his music, he had a hatred for police. Police won't never give peace to the N-words, find peace until then, F police.
Yeah.
One N-word.
Well, let's not forget, the Madonna Globe cover where it says cop killer Tupac. I mean, he was labeled as a cop killer because of the homicide that happened in Texas. And the guy, his defense was, I was playing Tupac's music. And so, that's when Dan Quayle and those guys started coming off the rap. Yeah, that was. Yeah. So he
They
was
tried to
labeled a cop
charge him
killer.
with murder. And shit. That was
Well,
crazy because of
and
his
wait a minute.
lyrics.
So the cop killer dude who's hated by the police comes to death row and he's going to be on the cop record label. This wasn't going to end well for him.
Hell no. Just
Yeah.
like when he was on Gang Related and found out that Reggie was a cop.
Yeah.
And Sugar, no, he ain't the police no more. You
It
know,
didn't matter.
and
He
then
never
that's why he
trusted him,
fired
never
Reggie
liked,
because he found out he was a former cop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, I'm looking forward to this. I'm really excited. Are you going to attend the trial?
You know what? I don't have any plans to. I mean, but
It's going
you
to be
never know.
televised.
Yeah.
So,
It's gonna be
you know,
televised and
yeah, I definitely would be more inclined to be sitting at home watching it, you know. But you never know. May show up in for a day or two. You know, I
all
want to be
right.
there when Reggie testify. 'Cause I got to
Oh
get a
yeah.
picture with Reggie.
Well, yeah, wouldn't that be great? And you know what? Let's actually record Reggie's confession because
Oh, you
Reggie,
know that.
you know you want to confess, bro. Come on, man. You were a deacon in the church. You know you want to confess.
That church probably on fire.
Yeah.
He's deacon.
Well, he knows.
Yeah. All right. Well, uh, one last thing I want to talk about is the infamous MGM video because
Yeah.
you play it a lot and you commentate a lot. Uh, do you believe that that's Reggie Senior, Reggie Junior, Gray Caden, Kevin Gaines, at least those four in that video?
Well, I've showed that video to hundreds of people in Compton. And, I wasn't around at the time that video happened. I didn't know those guys at the time, but I've showed it to people in Compton who say that this is them. And so, you know, and Kading was known as a PCP cop. And, I know people in Compton who were dealing in PCP, and I show it to them and they're like, yep, that's him. Yep, that's him. Yep, that's him. That's him. That's him. That's him. So forget about what I think. There are credible people who believe that that's them. There's a credible person who was Don King's guest at a fight before, and he came out, and the Compton PD were all working off-duty security at the time for the MGM. So this isn't a big stretch to think that it's them. But that's
No.
another good question for Reggie. Reggie, did you ever work off-duty security for the MGM? Do you know if Compton PD ever worked off-duty security for the MGM? Did Greg Kading ever work off-duty security for the MGM? These are great questions.
Right. Well, hopefully that there's going to be a clear, crystal clear video, that surveillance video, and we get to see these faces. Because from afar, it looks like who we think it looked like. But if we get a crystal clear version in the trial, this thing, the feds is gonna be sitting there with popcorn because somebody's getting arrested or indicted in a federal RICO when this thing is all over because there's so much information that's going to come out and corrupt information in this trial that people don't have no idea, and I think it's going to open the door for Biggie case to get reopened and some people to get indicted over there.
It should. I mean, for sure. And, the statute of limitations is run on the wrongful death stuff. So, and maybe in Tupac, because they just found out about it, maybe, that would start the clock over. But, it's ancient history at this point. So, hey, one question for you. I only have like 12,000 subscribers, but do you mind if I post this on my channel and tell all my subscribers to follow you and see if I can't get you some more subs?
Not at all. You post the whole show. Do as
Okay, perfect, man. Because you
want
know
to get
what? Why
the
not?
other one we did? You want to upload that one too? You
Yeah,
can.
yeah. Let's get them out there, brother. Because you know what? All I care about is the truth, and let's get the truth out there. I don't have a dog in this fight. Obviously I worked with Russell Poole on it. We came to a conclusion with this. I've seen more evidence to support the conclusion than I have evidence that refutes it. And so, for that reason, I want to honor Russell Poole and what we did because I believe that man sacrificed his life.
He definitely did.
Yeah.
He
Well,
definitely did.
and
Well,
there was only one person, right, that really came out and gave a shout out to Russell after that, and that was Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes came out and said, "Hey, man, you were the only one that gave a shit." I mean, and I agreed. You know, so yeah,
well, rest in peace, Russell Poole. You finally
absolutely,
your day is coming up, Russell. You're gonna see some justice because
absolutely, brother.
a lot of answers are gonna come out in this trial, and I just can't wait. And I hope that they subpoena Reggie's partner John and
Oh yeah,
and drill him too.
that's another one. Hey, John, we got a lot to cover up, y'all. And
Yeah.
and John, you know what, brother? Why don't you confess too? Seriously, do you want to carry all this on as a burden on your soul, John? Why don't you confess too? Why don't you come out? And Russell predicted that there were going to be deathbed confessions in both of these murders. And I think it's time for those deathbed confessions to start. And anybody who wants to make a deathbed confession, we could do it right here on Choke's channel. And let's get those deathbed confessions out there. Because you know what? If that's weighing on any of y'all's souls, you know what needs to happen? Let's solve Bobby Finch's murder. Let's solve Gary Beverly's murder, Vince Buchanan's. Let's solve Buntry's murder. Let's solve Bruce Richardson's murder. Let's solve all these murders and let's free up everybody from their burdens as they go into the next life.
Amen. Amen. And on that note, give them all your information on social media, your YouTube channel.
Okay, YouTube channel, Michael Douglas Carlin. My social media, you can reach me at mdc at michaelcarlin.com. And on Twitter, I'm at Michael Carlin. So come on down. We're going to have some fun on this trial. We're going to be putting out tweets or whatever. And, let's see if we can get some justice.
Yeah, nah. We praying for the Tupac Shakur family. Shout out to Sex, shout out to Mopreen,
Absolutely.
Talib, Aisha, rest in peace, Afeni Shakur,
Yeah.
Sadada Shakur.
Afeni knew what happened before she passed. I'm convinced. So
And I was told that so was Miss Wallace. She
yeah,
was told too.
yeah.
I can't. One of the persons whose name is mentioned in both cases, I heard that they went and sat down with Miss Wallace and told her what was really going on.
Well, I got a call from Afeni's attorney, and I had a 2-hour conversation with that attorney. And I'm not going to say a lot more about it, but don't forget, Afeni was the one that was going to write the settlement check to Orlando. So she already knew that Orlando didn't do it. She knew that Orlando wasn't a trigger man. It couldn't have happened. So I'm convinced that she knew exactly what happened before she died because she wanted closure. And I think she got the closure before, she drank a water bottle and passed away.
Right.
Yeah.
So have you spoken to Suge lately?
I have not spoken to Suge lately, and I'm open to it because I would still like to see him get an appeal that, I read these appeals and he's appealing the wrong issues. He really needs to look at how he was denied getting his attorney at the end. And, I'm a witness for that. And, I've never been contacted. I worked with Toy. We tried to get him an attorney. I worked with his family, with his sister and his niece and what have you. We tried to get him an attorney and it just didn't happen. And so him being denied that attorney and the way that they did that, I think that's appealable. So,
Right.
yeah, I would love to see him out because, I came to have a lot of respect for him. And, the one thing we can say about Reggie may have been at the helm of death row while Suge was in prison, but death row didn't go to new heights. Death row went to new lows under Reggie. And
Yes,
I
100%.
came to have, I had a lot of respect for Suge because some of the greatest music that was ever recorded was recorded on Suge Knight's watch. And so you got to have huge respect for what Suge Knight was able to accomplish. And by the way, not so easy to get Crips and Bloods to work together in the same record label. And somehow Suge was able to do that and was able to make it about the business. And somebody was really guiding the music side of Death Row, and that was Suge. And that was not duplicable. You know, he was talking about how the demos would come in and they would listen to the demos and what have you, and then they would figure out, okay, we're going to have DOC rewrite the lyrics and we're going to have Dre rewrite the beats, and that's going to be the song. And they were just churning out hit after hit after hit.
Yeah,
And
they did. I mean, I do miss speaking to him because we had a lot
oh
of good laughs and
yeah,
stuff. But it is what it is.
well, you know what? And in some ways he's his own worst enemy because, you know, he trusts some of the people he shouldn't trust, and he doesn't trust some of the people he should. And
100%.
he's
He
got a
always burn the
huge
good ones
yeah. Well,
and
he's
stay
got a
cool with
huge
the worst ones.
exactly. He's got a huge appealable issue, and he
Right.
hasn't explored that. And you know, unfortunately, as you do these appeals, you start to lose your chances to do more. And he's had people that are just they want to be his attorney, but they're not doing an appeal is something that actually takes months to write. And when I read what was written, it's just, you know, outcome determinative justice. And so you have people on board that are not really your friend. They're trying to score with the prosecution, they're trying to score with the judges. And,
Right.
you know, so he's the one that gets played.
Yeah, he'll figure it out one day.
Yeah. Well,
It
maybe he'll
ain't too
listen to
late.
this. I'm sure somebody's going to play it for him.
I know they are.
Yeah.
He probably listening live right now.
Yeah. Well,
What up, Shug?
exactly. What up, Suge? Yeah.
All
I,
right.
I like Suge Knight, and I have huge respect for him because nobody has been able to duplicate what he did with Death Row Records.
Right. And on that note, closing this, can you quote what Suge said about this murder?
Well, I mean, basically, what he said was he said they were trying to kill me because they wanted my record label. He said Sharitha, Reggie, and Perez was all great friends, and they were trying to plot. I mean, that's it. And so that makes Reggie a suspect, and the confession letter makes Reggie a suspect, and the Biggie murder, Reggie's a suspect. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And hopefully at some point the prosecution, because I feel like they are the last people in the world that think Reggie got anything to do with this.
yeah.
But hopefully by the time of this, their vision will go from blurry to crystal clear, and they'll be slapping the cuffs on him as he roll off the stand.
Yeah. Well, I think we've given them some very good things for them to think about as they prepare to go to trial.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure
All right,
always.
brother. All right,
Uh,
man.
feel free to upload this on your channel, and if you
Okay.
need me for anything, I'm here for you.
All right, brother. And you know what? We'll probably be doing some commentary, on this trial. I'm open to
Oh
that
yeah,
too.
yeah. We got to do at least recaps at the end of the week, bare
Well,
minimum.
I'm going to reach out to you offline because there's a couple of things that I have that I think it's time to release, and so we should probably do that. And I'm happy. Look, I want the truth. Okay,
Yeah,
I don't need credit for it. Let's give the credit to Russell Poole for some of this stuff. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about justice. So if I do something that you want to use, you're welcome to repost it. Because
okay,
I don't care. I
right,
want the truth out there.
right.
So it's not about a copyright or I don't care about that stuff.
Yeah, well, some people are like that, but
Oh yeah, yeah,
me, I'm not on it like that. Like I want justice too.
yeah,
Like I honestly, in my soul, I feel like Reggie allegedly got something to do with this, and it would I can't wait to see all the evidence come out. and for me to be able to say, I knew it. Because I know some stuff is going to come out in this trial that we have never seen as far as evidence and discovery that is going to tip the scale for everybody that thought that Orlando did it, to show them that that all was a hoax and a cover-up.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you, and I welcome any new information. We don't have dogs in this fight. We're not cheering on a team. You know what? We just want justice. And you know what? If it turns out that Keefe D was the one that went into the hospital and he popped the poison in and he killed Tupac, then I want to see Keefe D stand, for just. I just want to see him, do his time, because we want whoever it is that's behind all this stuff. We want them to face justice. And we want closure for the families. We want closure for the fans. We want closure for everybody involved.
100% here. All right. Well, with that note, I'm going to call you when I get off. And thanks again for coming on. I appreciate your time.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right. Take care. Shout out to Michael Carlin once again. Another great interview. I enjoyed it. I hope y'all enjoyed it as well. We shall see what happens, y'all. We about 30 days down. I know Porky watching right now, probably farting up a storm, pissed off at me. Sorry, little Porky. If you innocent, you innocent. But if you not, God got something for you, baby. All right? Choke no joke, y'all already know. If you not subscribed to my channel, you should be subscribed already. And if you're not, hit the button now. Hit the like button now. And share this video if you love Tupac Shakur. So shout out to Sek, shout out to Aisha, shout out to Mo Preem, Talib, William. Rest in peace, Mr. Afeni Shakur. And shout out Billy Garland. I know you out there watching, brother. All right. Choke no joke, y'all already know, man. Shout out to all the dialogue and spots like that also cover the Tupac trial. Tupac content. Everybody that, contribute a little truth to get justice. Even you suckers. You know who you are, suckers. Choke no joke. I'm out, man. I'll holler at y'all in a minute. Suge, man, make sure you show up to court, baby. We need you. It ain't snitching. It ain't snitching when you testifying for Pac, unless you was in a white Cadillac. You heard me? Snoop, we see you there too, Snoop. Trayvon, if you ain't got no part to play with Porky, we'll see you in court too, all right? Because you on your Instagram acting like you love Pac. If you love Pac, you going to come get justice for him, Trayvon. All right? Choke no joke. You already know. One love. See y'all tomorrow.
Jack Brown. You know what it is. Keep on hating. You know what it is. Never did I think hip-hop go this far. Never did I think I see Diddy behind bars or Kells. Penitentiary scars. The Man Act. Is it going too far back? Y'all industry rats, y'all whack. That's 100 on Pyro. You'll be trapped like Pac. The go viral. Gene saw the nuts at gyro. At the freak off and Diddy too. But plug shopper, free door stopper. Nigga, you don't know if you a criminal or a cop. But you're next to be locked. Ask Keefe D. Telling on yourself on Vlad TV. You dumb nigga, right? You'll never be me. And I never be you too. Telling on you too. Sitting on the step, giving up myself. What the fuck I look like? My name G-Dap. Comb legacy doom. Will the bad boy see time like loan? Your extortion fell through. You friend to no one, like the moon. say same gang. Yeah. You the same lane. Yeah. That did he let hang. And now he chain gang. Damn, you rocked him, fella. Didn't you? For the mozzarella. Did it for Wolf and his mother. D-Fur and Kerborough. Nah, nigga, you did it cause your ass ain't thorough. And you ain't from the boroughs. Joke, no joke, you know what it is. This one's for the whole earth, you know, when they get disrespectful. I just go to the booth and kick the truth to the young black youth. Joke, no joke, you know what it is. Keep on hating, you know what it is. Joke, no joke, yeah! It's joke, no joke. Let's go.
Supreme Bigger Figure, Big Cap, the Warden, the Club King.
The DJ Johnny Walker Red.
MC Frank Jigger, the celebrity's choice.
Sean Brophy, sound engineer.
Joke, no joke. Legendary videographer.
Sterling Cox. I was the head of security.
Alpha Grenier.
My name is V.
Omega.
Big G.
Vim Rock from the legendary Naughty by Nature.
Styles P the Ghost, LOX, D-Block.
Tech Smith and Wesson.
LB Fan, Mr. Cheeks. The Cool, the DJ, the Red Alert. Kid Capri.
The tunnel was a hip-hop nucleus.
It was the epicenter.
It was the domain, the temple.
It was the Mecca.
Nothing was that melting pot of hip-hop.
They kept the paradigm going.
It's almost like what Rucker did for street basketball. The tunnel was that of music industry.
My Sunday ritual going to the tunnel was, I'm telling you, your ass better be there.
You just pretty much did push-ups.
We had to drink a couple bottles of Hennessy, go get smoked.
Leave the jewelry and watches at home.
Before you even get to the tunnel, you gotta get on the block.
You started from 11th Avenue, and when you got to that door, the search procedures was no other.
First time I ever heard of take your shoes off, open your mouth, was in the tunnel. It was damn near everything but a full cavity search.
Security at the tunnel was no joke.
The beatdowns did happen.
Some of them, if you had that chain out, that shit was leaving with one of them niggas.
We had a handful of cats. When we were taking you out, they were digging in your pockets.
The code check at the tunnel was crazy because you ain't know if you was gonna get your shit back.
Sometimes the bloops happen where you might not get your coat.
A lot of boys wanted to get their girls some fur coats, you know, so I mean, it was free.
The bar was always on till after the tunnel.
You might get fake alcohol. Bartenders might have got counterfeit.
The dance floor is always rocking.
It looked like a video all the time.
The tunnel had a very unique situation at the bathroom. It was co-ed.
The bathroom was Sodom and Gomorrah.
I was like this, looking, trying to look past the dudes like when they was going in the urinal.
The tunnel was a one-stop shop. They had food, they had alcohol, drugs. I saw weed the tub. It was just oozing money.
Backstage is like the club amongst the club.
That's where all the so-called stars who was scary to be in the crowd, that's where they hung out at.
The dopest things about the tunnel for me to remember is hearing my records get played up in there.
The top, maybe, of all-time tunnel banger.
Or anything Bad Boy.
Every Biggie record, any shit by Hov.
Shakur was bananas in there.
Nori could perform that bang bang.
Annie up.
Any one of Buster joints, Wild Out would actually start a fight.
The best performance I ever seen, Jay-Z performed in front of the DJ booth. The DJ booth was bouncing like a ball. Snoop and Dre, when Dre was there.
DMX, Get At Me, Dog.
The king of the tunnel was Jay-Z.
Busta Rhymes. DMX is the king.
Queen of the tunnel.
Mary J. Blige.
Foxy and Lil Kim. Eve.
King of the tunnel record label-wise was Def Jam.
Bad Boy.
The best DJ at the tunnel was Flex.
Big Cap, all day. Flex used to break off the records, but he used to try to bully Cap, like, don't spin this, because when I get here, I want to spin it. No, nigga, fuck wrong with you?
What the tunnel did for artists, it solidified their street music.
That gave us a platform, set up Rough Riders, Rockefeller, Bad Boy, slew of other artists.
The closing of the tunnel, it was kind of sad because that was a big piece of hip hop.
So losing the tunnel was like a little kid losing Disney.
A famous mosque closing down.
I think when the tunnel closed, it was necessary. Niggas was coming to miss me.
When you hear people of the late 70s talked about Studio 54, the tunnel was the Studio 54 of hip hop.
Joke, no joke, yeah! It's choke, no joke. Let's go. Choke, no joke. Chicken choke, no joke. Choke, no joke. Niggas choke.